The universe operates on principles we understand: physics, chemistry, the fundamental laws of cause and effect. Starfleet had mapped subspace anomalies for over 2 centuries, categorized quantum fluctuations, and developed protocols for dimensional rifts. But what happens when something tears through the fabric of space-time that defies every sensor reading, every theoretical model, every rational explanation? What happens when a soldier from a war the Federation never fought arrives in a universe that forgot what total war truly means? The USS Enterprise D was conducting a routine survey of the Calandra sector when Lieutenant Commander Data's console erupted with warnings. The android's fingers moved across his station with superhuman precision, golden eyes narrowing as he processed information faster than any biological mind could comprehend. "Captain, I am detecting a subspace rupture at bearing 27 Mark IV, Data reported, his voice carrying that peculiar mix of curiosity and concern that only an artificial being could manage. "The energy signature does not match any known phenomenon in our database." Captain Jean-Luc Picard rose from his command chair, tugging his uniform jacket down in that characteristic gesture. On screen, the view screen shimmered, revealing a tear in space itself. Not the swirling vortex of a wormhole or the clean geometry of a subspace rift, but something violent and wrong. Purple and blue energies crackled around jagged edges that seemed to cut through reality itself. The tear pulsed with a rhythm that made the bridge lights flicker. "Shields up," Picard ordered. "Red alert." The klaxon sounded as the Enterprise's deflector shields snapped into place. Commander William Riker moved to stand beside the captain, his bearded face set in concentration. At tactical, Lieutenant Worf's hands hovered over the weapons console, his Klingon instincts sensing danger. "Captain, something is emerging from the rupture," Data announced. Through the tear came an object, roughly humanoid but clearly armored, tumbling through the void. The figure was encased in green and gold metal plating that gleamed under the Enterprise's running lights. Emergency thrusters on the armor fired in controlled bursts, attempting to stabilize the uncontrolled spin. Sensors indicate a single life form inside what appears to be a powered exoskeleton, Data continued. "The being is humanoid, but I am detecting cybernetic enhancements integrated at the genetic level. The technology is remarkable. The armor incorporates energy shielding, weapons systems, and what appears to be a compact fusion reactor." "Is the life form in distress?" Picard asked. "Unknown, sir. However, the armor's power systems are fluctuating. I estimate shield failure in approximately 4 minutes." Picard made his decision instantly. "Transporter Room 3, lock onto that life form and beam them directly to Cargo Bay 2. Erect a level 10 force field around the arrival coordinates." "Aye, sir," came Chief O'Brien's voice over the comm. "Worf, security team to Cargo Bay 2. Phasers on heavy stun. Dr. Crusher, report to Cargo Bay 2 with a medical team." The Klingon security chief nodded grimly and headed for the turbolift. Whatever was coming aboard the Enterprise, it would find the ship ready. In Cargo Bay 2, the transporter beam deposited its cargo with a shimmer of golden light. The armored figure materialized 3 feet above the deck and dropped with a heavy metallic thud that echoed through the cavernous space. For a moment, nothing moved. Then the figure stirred. Master Chief Petty Officer John 117 pushed himself to his feet with practiced efficiency, his HUD flickering with error messages and system warnings. The motion tracker in the upper left corner of his visor was scrambled, showing ghost contacts that appeared and disappeared. His energy shields were at 40% and dropping. The last thing he remembered was the Halo Ring's destruction, Cortana's final words, and then the slipspace rupture that had torn his Pelican apart. This wasn't the UNSC Infinity. This wasn't any UNSC vessel he'd ever seen. His heads-up display identified the force field immediately, an energy barrier containing him in a 30-foot radius. Beyond it, 6 figures in mustard yellow and black uniforms held weapons pointed in his direction. The weapons were unfamiliar, but the tactical situation was clear: he was a prisoner. "I am Lieutenant Worf, Chief of Security aboard the USS Enterprise," the largest of the figures announced. He was humanoid but clearly not human, prominent forehead ridges, dark skin, and a bearing that screamed warrior culture. "You are aboard a Federation starship. Power down your weapons and identify yourself." Chief's hand instinctively moved toward his MA-5D assault rifle, still mag-locked to his thigh plate. 6 weapons tracked the movement. "I wouldn't do that," Worf growled. A woman in blue medical uniform stepped forward, her scanner already active. "I'm Dr. Beverly Crusher. You've been through some kind of spatial anomaly. We're here to help you, but we need you to cooperate." Chief's tactical assessment ran through combat scenarios automatically. 6 hostiles, unknown weapon capabilities, confined space, shields at 40%, ammunition, 2 magazines for the assault rifle, 1 for the M6 Magnum, for fragmentation grenades. He could breach the force field and neutralize the immediate threats in approximately 8 seconds, but that would leave him on an unknown ship with unknown crew complement and capabilities. He'd fought the Covenant for 30 years. He'd stopped the Flood. He'd destroyed Halo rings and prevented galactic extinction. But he'd also learned when to fight and when to gather intelligence. Chief reached slowly for his helmet seals, the pneumatic hiss filling the cargo bay as he removed it. The face beneath was pale, scarred, with eyes that had seen too much war. He was younger than the veterans in the room expected, late 30s, perhaps, but those eyes belonged to someone much older. "Master Chief Petty Officer John 117, UNSC Naval Special Warfare Command," he said, his voice flat and controlled. "Serial number, 117-043962-7827. Where am I?" Worf and Crusher exchanged glances. UNSC. That designation didn't appear in any Federation database. "You are aboard the USS Enterprise, registry NCC 1701D, Crusher explained carefully. "You emerged from a subspace rupture in the Calandra sector. This is a Federation starship. Can you tell us where you came from?" Chief's eyes swept the cargo bay, cataloging exits, structural weak points, cargo containers that could provide cover. His neural interface was already attempting to interface with the ship's computer systems through ambient signals, but the architecture was completely alien to UNSC protocols. "Installation 07, Chief answered. "We were containing a flood outbreak when the slipspace drive was damaged. The rupture must have been caused by interaction with Forerunner technology." More glances. None of those terms meant anything to the Enterprise crew. Captain Picard's voice came over the comm system. "Chief O'Brien reports that we cannot get a clear sensor reading through your armor. Would you be willing to power down your systems so Dr. Crusher can examine you?" Chief looked at the force field, at the weapons still trained on him, at the people who claimed to want to help but had imprisoned him immediately. It was tactically sound, it was exactly what he would have done. But it also meant he was dealing with professionals. "Negative," Chief replied. "Life support systems are integrated with the armor. Power down would be fatal." That wasn't entirely true, but they didn't need to know that. Picard's voice carried a note of understanding. "Then perhaps you would be willing to accompany Security Chief Worf to a more comfortable location where we can discuss your situation. I give you my word that you will not be harmed." Chief studied the Klingon warrior. There was honor in that stance, a warrior's bearing he recognized from years of fighting alongside Sanghaili allies after the war ended. If this was a warrior culture, they might understand him better than diplomats would. "Agreed," Chief said. "But the armor stays on." The force field dropped. If you want to see more characters enter the Star Trek universe, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. Live long and prosper. As Chief walked toward the cargo bay exit, his motion tracker finally stabilized enough to show him something disturbing. This ship had a crew complement of over 1,000. He was alone, low on ammunition, in an unknown universe where even the basic laws of physics seemed different. He'd been in worse situations. Barely. The conference room aboard the Enterprise D was designed for diplomacy, not interrogation. Soft lighting, comfortable chairs arranged around an oval table, a viewport showing the stars sliding past at warp speed. Captain Picard sat at the head of the table with Commander Riker to his right and Counselor Deanna Troi to his left. Data occupied the far end, his golden eyes fixed on their guest with unblinking fascination. Dr. Crusher stood near the entrance, medical tricorder still active. Master Chief stood. He'd refused the offered chair, instead positioning himself where he could see all entrances and maintain clear sightlines to every person in the room. His helmet rested on the table before him, and even without it, the Mjolnir armor made him an imposing figure. 7 feet of green and gold alloy, weapon still mag-locked to his thigh plates, stance relaxed but ready. Worf stood behind him, phaser holstered but hand near the weapon. The Klingon had insisted on the precaution. "Chief," Picard began, his voice carrying that particular blend of authority and diplomacy that had navigated 1,000 first-contact scenarios, "I understand you must be disoriented. You've traveled through what appears to be an interdimensional rupture. The technology you describe, this UNSC, the Covenant, Forerunner installations, none of it exists in our database. I believe you may have come from an alternate reality entirely." Chief's expression didn't change. He'd suspected as much when his AI companion hadn't responded to any queries. Cortana, or the weapon, depending on which timeline he'd been pulled from, would have analyzed this situation instantly. The silence in his neural interface was almost deafening. "That would explain the slipspace failure," Chief said. Forerunner technology was designed to manipulate higher dimensional space. If Installation 07's destruction created a breach between dimensions. "Precisely," Data interjected, leaning forward with obvious enthusiasm. "The energy signature we detected matches theoretical models of transdimensional travel, though the mechanism appears to be significantly more violent than controlled methods. Your armor's power fluctuations suggest incompatibility with our universe's subspace field dynamics." "Fascinating. Commander Data is our operations officer and science officer," Picard explained. "He's an android. A positronic artificial intelligence." Chief's head turned toward Data, reassessing. "An AI with a physical body. The UNSC had experimented with similar concepts but never achieved anything like this." Data met his gaze with what might have been curiosity. "Your armor's neural interface is attempting to establish contact with the Enterprise's computer core," Data noted. "I have been monitoring its handshake protocols. The encryption is remarkably sophisticated, though based on quantum entanglement principles that differ substantially from our own. Standard UNSC security protocols," Chief confirmed. "The armor is trying to locate my AI companion. She's not responding." "She." Counselor Troi spoke for the first time, her dark eyes searching Chief's face. The Betazoid empath had been reading his emotional state since he'd entered the room, and what she sensed disturbed her. This man's emotional landscape was a battlefield, layered trauma, profound loss, and an iron discipline that kept everything contained behind walls that would take years to penetrate. But beneath it all, she sensed something unexpected, loneliness. "Cortana," Chief said simply. "Smart AI. She's been with me for most of my career. If she didn't make the transition." He left the sentence unfinished, but Troi felt the spike of concern that he immediately suppressed. This warrior had lost his only companion, possibly his only friend. "We may be able to help with that," Data offered. "If you would permit me to interface directly with your armor systems, I could potentially reconstruct the AI matrix using." "No." Chief's response was immediate and non-negotiable. "The armor's security protocols are classified. No external access." Picard nodded, understanding. Trust had to be earned, not demanded. "Very well. Chief, let me be direct with you. You are in what we call the United Federation of Planets. An alliance of over 150 member worlds dedicated to peaceful exploration, scientific advancement, and mutual cooperation. We have a policy called the Prime Directive which prevents us from interfering in the development of less advanced civilizations. We value diplomacy over military action, though we maintain Starfleet for defense and exploration purposes. Chief processed this. A civilization that valued peace over war, exploration over conquest. It sounded like the propaganda the UNSC had spread during the insurrection, before the Covenant had shown humanity what real war meant. How many wars are you currently fighting? Chief asked. The question caught them off guard. Riker cleared his throat. We're not at war, Chief. We have tensions with several powers, the Romulan Star Empire, the Cardassian Union, but we resolve most conflicts through diplomatic channels. The Borg, Worf added darkly, his voice carrying the weight of personal experience. They do not negotiate. They assimilate. We have fought them twice. They are a threat to all life in the galaxy. Chief turned to face the Klingon fully. There was something in Worf's tone he recognized, the voice of someone who'd faced an enemy that couldn't be reasoned with, only destroyed. Tell me about the Borg, Chief said. Data brought up a holographic display above the conference table. The image showed a massive cube, its surface a geometric nightmare of technology and darkness. The Borg are a collective consciousness, billions of drones linked through a hive mind. They travel the galaxy assimilating species, adding their biological and technological distinctiveness to their own. They have adapted to every weapon we've used against them. They are relentless, and they are growing stronger. Chief studied the cube, his tactical mind already analyzing attack vectors, weak points, defensive capabilities. How do you stop them? With great difficulty, Picard said quietly. His hand unconsciously moved to his uniform, and Troy felt the familiar echo of trauma. The captain had been assimilated once, turned into a Borg drone called Locutus. The experience had left scars that still hadn't fully healed. The Borg adapt to our weapons within seconds. What works once becomes useless in subsequent encounters. Then you rotate weapon frequencies, Chief said. Vary your attack patterns. Keep them adapting to new threats instead of allowing them to optimize against known threats. We do, Worf confirmed. But their adaptation speed exceeds our ability to innovate in real-time combat. Chief fell silent, considering this. The Covenant had been technologically superior to humanity for 30 years, but they'd been predictable. Religious zealots following ancient doctrines, unable to adapt their tactics because their prophets declared certain strategies heretical. The UNSC had survived by being unpredictable, by using guerrilla tactics and unconventional warfare. But an enemy that adapted in real time? That was different. That was the Flood. You've encountered something similar, Troy observed, feeling the shift in his emotional state. Something that couldn't be stopped conventionally. The Flood, Chief confirmed. Parasitic organism. Infects living tissue, converts it to combat forms. Spreads exponentially. Intelligence increases with biomass accumulation. We couldn't adapt fast enough to their mutations, so we used scorched earth tactics. Glassed entire planets to stop the spread. The room went silent. Dr. Crusher's face paled. You destroyed planets. Killed billions. To save trillions, Chief said without inflection. The Flood would have consumed the galaxy if containment failed. Sometimes survival requires impossible choices. Picard leaned back in his chair, his expression carefully neutral. This was the challenge of first contact, understanding a culture that operated under completely different moral frameworks. This man had been forged in a war that made the Federation's conflicts look like border skirmishes. Chief, I need you to understand something fundamental about the Federation, Picard said carefully. We believe that there are lines that cannot be crossed, even in the name of survival. The deliberate destruction of a civilization, even to save others, violates our most sacred principles. Then your principles have never been tested, Chief replied. The Covenant glassed 30 planets before we stopped them. The flood infected hundreds of worlds. When extinction is the alternative, principles become luxuries. Or they become the last thing that separates us from our enemies, Picard countered. Chief, I don't doubt that you've faced horrors we can scarcely imagine. But in this universe, we've found that holding to our values, even when it's difficult, even when it costs us, is what defines us as a civilization worth preserving. Chief met the captain's gaze. He'd heard similar speeches from Admiral Parangoski, from Lord Hood, from every officer who'd never been on the ground when the Covenant plasma bombardment turned cities to glass. But this man believed what he was saying. There was no doubt in his eyes, no hesitation. Captain, Chief said slowly, in my universe, humanity was 3 months from extinction when we stopped the Covenant. 3 months. If we'd followed your Prime Directive, if we'd refused to make hard choices, humans would be extinct. I respect your principles. But I've seen what happens when you hesitate. Troy felt the absolute conviction behind those words. This man had saved his entire species through actions that would horrify the Federation, and he carried no guilt for it. He'd made peace with what he was, a weapon aimed at humanity's enemies, successful because he never flinched from what needed to be done. Riker spoke up, his tone diplomatic. Chief, nobody here is judging the choices you made in your universe. But you're in ours now, and our laws apply. We'd like to help you, but we need to establish some ground rules. Such as? Chief asked. Your weapons remain secured while you're aboard this ship, Worf stated firmly. You will be assigned quarters under security supervision. And you will submit to medical evaluation to ensure you pose no biological threat. Chief's jaw tightened slightly. Being disarmed was non-negotiable. My weapons stay with me. The armor stays on. Medical scans from a distance are acceptable. That's not, Worf began. Acceptable, Picard interjected smoothly. Chief, you are not a prisoner here. You're a guest, albeit one who arrived under unusual circumstances. We will respect your autonomy, but we also have a responsibility to protect this crew. Can you meet us halfway? Chief considered this. They could try to take his weapons by force, but that would turn a diplomatic situation into a combat scenario. These people seemed genuine in their desire to help, even if their worldview was naive by UNSC standards. The fragmentation grenades can be secured in your armory, Chief offered. The firearms stay with me, but I won't load them without threat confirmation. Medical scans from outside the armor are acceptable. I'll need quarters with independent power supply, my armor requires regular recharging. Picard nodded. Commander Data, can we accommodate those requirements? Yes, Captain. VIP quarters on Deck 8 can be modified with an independent power coupling. I can configure it to interface with Chief's armor specifications once we establish compatible protocols. Then we have an agreement, Picard said, standing and extending his hand. Welcome aboard the Enterprise, Chief. I hope we can find a way to return you to your universe, but in the meantime, you have our protection. Chief accepted the handshake. Picard's grip was firm, the gesture oddly formal. In the UNSC, soldiers didn't shake hands with officers, they saluted. These people had different customs, different hierarchies. Different enemies. As the meeting concluded and Worf escorted Chief toward his assigned quarters, Data approached Picard with concern in his synthetic features. Captain, I have been analyzing Chief's armor composition. The alloy contains elements that should not exist in stable configurations. His neural augmentations appear to have been performed during childhood, extensive modification to skeletal structure, muscle tissue, nervous system response time. The procedures would have had a high mortality rate. Are you saying he was experimented on? Crusher asked, horror creeping into her voice. I am saying he was purpose-built, Data corrected. Created to be a soldier from a young age. The psychological implications are significant. Troy nodded slowly. He doesn't see himself as a person, Captain. He sees himself as a tool, a weapon to be aimed at threats. He's been fighting since he was a child. He doesn't know how to be anything else. Picard stood at the viewport, watching the stars stream past. Then perhaps we can show him there's more to existence than war. If we can help him return home, it should be with the understanding that peace is possible. And if we can't send him home? Riker asked. Picard's expression hardened slightly. Then we have a warrior trained for total war loose in a galaxy that hasn't seen his kind of conflict. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, number one. Because if the wrong people learn what he's capable of. He left the sentence unfinished, but they all understood. The Federation had enemies who would kill to possess a soldier like the Master Chief. And some of those enemies already operated within the Federation itself. In Section 31's hidden monitoring station, deep in the Enterprise's auxiliary systems, an encrypted message was already being transmitted to Earth. The subject line was simple. Spartan program, acquisition recommended. The quarters assigned to Master Chief were spacious by military standards, larger than any barracks he'd occupied during his 30 years of service. A bed that could accommodate his armored frame, a desk with a computer terminal, a viewport showing the distorted starscape of warp travel, and a separate room containing what the Enterprise crew called a replicator. Data had explained it could synthesize food, water, and basic supplies from energy. Chief stood at the viewport, helmet off, watching space bend around the ship's warp field. The effect was disorienting, not the clean rupture of slipspace, but a continuous distortion of spacetime itself. The Enterprise was traveling faster than light without entering an alternate dimension. The physics were elegant, more refined than UNSC technology. His armor was connected to the modified power coupling Data had installed, recharging at approximately 60% efficiency. The shields had stabilized at 75% capacity, better than nothing, but not combat ready. His motion tracker still flickered with ghost contacts, the sensor suite confused by the Enterprise's internal force fields and the unusual subspace harmonics. He'd been aboard for 6 hours. In that time, he'd memorized the deck layout from publicly available schematics, identified 3 potential armories based on security patterns, and calculated 17 escape routes from his current position. Old habits. The door chime sounded, a melodic tone instead of the harsh buzz of UNSC vessels. Enter, Chief said, turning from the viewport. Commander Data stepped through the doorway, carrying a small container. The android moved with precise, economical motion that reminded Chief of Dr. Halsey's earlier AI experiments. Chief, I hope I am not disturbing you. I brought sustenance options from the replicator. Dr. Crusher indicated you have not eaten since arrival. Chief glanced at the container. Inside were several sealed packages containing what looked like ration bars, protein supplements, and water. Data had researched military field rations and replicated the closest equivalent. Thank you, Commander, Chief said, taking the container. It was a small gesture, but tactical awareness extended to supply lines. He needed to maintain peak physical condition. You are welcome. Data hesitated, an unusual behavior for an android programmed for efficiency. Chief, may I ask you a question of a personal nature? Go ahead. You referred earlier to an AI companion named Cortana. In my research of your armor systems, passive observation only, I assure you, I detected architecture designed for a symbiotic intelligence interface. Was Cortana integrated into your neural pathways? Chief nodded slowly. Through the Mjolnir neural interface. She could access my visual feed, medical data, tactical assessments. I could query her for information, calculations, strategic analysis. He paused, searching for words that didn't come naturally. She was my partner. And now you are experiencing her absence, Data observed. I find this intriguing. I am an artificial life form attempting to understand humanity. Cortana was an artificial intelligence who worked alongside a human. In some ways, we are mirrors of each other. You seem more human than she did, Chief said. Cortana was logic-based, though she developed personality quirks over time. You have facial expressions, body language, social protocols. I have spent years studying human behavior, Data admitted. I have an emotion chip that I can activate, though I often choose not to engage it. I find the experience overwhelming at times. But I am curious about your relationship with Cortana. Did you consider her alive? The question hung in the air. Chief had never articulated it before. The UNSC had strict protocols about AI rights, treating them as sophisticated tools rather than sentient beings. But Cortana had been different. She'd saved his life dozens of times, made jokes during firefights, argued with him about tactics, sacrificed herself more than once to ensure mission success. Yes, Chief said finally. She was alive. Maybe not biological, but she was a person. She made choices. She felt things. Or at least, she claimed to. I never had reason to doubt her. Data's expression shifted into something that might have been satisfaction. Captain Picard has fought for my recognition as a sentient being with rights equivalent to biological life forms. Your perspective is validating. If an AI from another universe is considered alive by her human partner, perhaps my own claim to personhood is less controversial than some believe. Before Chief could respond, the ship's red alert klaxon sounded, a harsh, pulsing tone that sent his combat instincts into overdrive. His helmet was on in 2 seconds, HUD flaring to life, weapons check running automatically. All hands to battle stations, Picard's voice came over the comm system. Unidentified vessel decloaking off the port bow. Romulan configuration. Data's fingers flew to the comm panel on the wall. Data to bridge. Acknowledged. Chief, I must report to my station. I recommend you remain here where. I'm coming with you, Chief stated, already moving toward the door. Chief, Starfleet regulations. I'm not Starfleet, Chief interrupted, striding past the android into the corridor. And if you're going into combat, you want me on that bridge. Data considered this for precisely 0.3 seconds, then nodded. Follow me. The turbolift ride to the bridge took 27 seconds. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency, Worf at tactical, a young ensign at the con, Picard standing at the center of it all with Riker at his side. The view screen showed a Romulan warbird decloaking, its predatory bird-of-prey configuration emerging from the distortion of its cloaking device. Every head turned when Chief stepped onto the bridge. Mr. Data, I don't recall authorizing, Picard began. Captain, long-range sensors detect 3 additional Romulan vessels approaching at high warp, the ensign at Ops called out. They'll be here in 2 minutes. For ships, Riker said grimly. They're not here for a chat. Chief moved to the railing overlooking the command center, his eyes scanning the tactical display. Captain, permission to observe? Picard's expression was unreadable. Having an armed super soldier on the bridge during first contact with a potentially hostile force violated every protocol in Starfleet regulations. But the Enterprise was about to be outnumbered 4-1 by one of the Federation's most dangerous adversaries. Granted, Picard said. But Chief, no weapons. This is a diplomatic situation first. Understood. The view screen shifted to show a Romulan commander, sharp features, pointed ears, an expression of calculated superiority. The woman wore the uniform of the Romulan Star Empire with the insignia of a subcommander. Federation vessel Enterprise, she said, her voice carrying theatrical disdain. I am Subcommander Seattle of the warbird Valdor. You will lower your shields and prepare to be boarded. We have detected an anomalous energy signature aboard your vessel that belongs to the Romulan Star Empire. Picard stepped forward, his diplomatic mask firmly in place. Sub-Commander, I assure you we are carrying no Romulan property. The energy signature you detected is from a visitor who arrived through a spatial anomaly. This is a Federation matter. Your assurances are meaningless, Picard, Seatle replied. Tal Shiar Intelligence has been tracking transdimensional energy patterns for months. We know that anomaly deposited advanced military technology in this sector. Technology that rightfully belongs to the Romulan people. Worf's hands tightened on his console. Captain, the other 3 warbuds are dropping out of warp. They're taking up attack positions. Chief studied the tactical display with professional assessment. 4 ships, each one larger than the Enterprise, positioned in a tetrahedron formation that provided overlapping fire zones with minimal friendly fire risk. Classic pincer maneuver. The Romulans were serious about this. They're not bluffing, Chief said quietly to Data, who had taken his position at Ops. That's an assault formation. They're preparing to disable your ship and take what they want by force. The Romulans are known for subterfuge and patience, Data replied, equally quiet. This level of aggression suggests they believe the potential gain is worth risking open conflict with the Federation. On the view screen, Seatle's expression hardened. You have 60 seconds to comply, Picard. Lower your shields, or we will lower them for you. Picard's jaw tightened. Sub-Commander, attacking a Federation starship is an act of war. The Treaty of Algeron. The treaty is irrelevant when the Empire's security is at stake, Seatle interrupted. 45 seconds. Chief's HUD was already calculating firing solutions, analyzing the warbud's weak points from the visual feed. The ships were heavily armored, but their power signatures suggested centralized shield generators. A concentrated assault on the aft section of the lead ship would compromise their defensive grid. The problem was the Enterprise's weapons, phasers that fired in straight lines, photon torpedoes that were slower than UNSC Archer missiles. Captain, Chief said, his voice cutting through the bridge tension, they want me. Let me talk to them. Every eye turned to him. Picard's expression was skeptical. Chief, I don't think. They detected my armor's energy signature. They think I'm a weapon they can use. Let me disabuse them of that notion before this turns into a shooting war. Riker leaned close to Picard. Captain, he's right. If the Romulans want him, maybe we can buy time for Starfleet reinforcements. Or we give them exactly what they're after, Worf growled. Chief stepped down to the command level, standing beside Picard. Captain, I've been in hostage situations before. Sometimes the best way to end one is to prove the hostage isn't worth taking. Picard studied the armored warrior before him. There was a cold calculation in those eyes. This man was assessing tactical options with the same dispassion Data might use. But there was also something else, confidence. Not arrogance, but the absolute certainty of someone who had survived impossible odds through skill and determination. Very well, Picard said. But Chief, diplomacy first. Violence only as a last resort. Agreed. Picard turned back to the view screen. Sub-Commander Seatle, the individual you're seeking has requested to speak with you directly. Seatle's eyes narrowed with interest. Show me. Chief stepped into the viewscreen's field of view. The Romulan commander's expression shifted from disdain to fascination as she took in the Mjolnir armor, the weapons, the absolute stillness of a predator at rest. I am Master Chief Petty Officer John 117, Chief stated flatly. You've detected my armor's energy signature. You think I'm technology you can acquire and reverse engineer. You're wrong. Bold words from someone surrounded by 4 warbuds, Seatle replied, but there was uncertainty in her voice now. You will surrender yourself to Romulan custody, or we will take you by force. You can try, Chief said. But understand what you're attempting. I'm a Spartan II super soldier. I've been fighting since I was 6 years old. I've killed thousands in personal combat. I've destroyed fleets. I've stopped galactic extinction events. If you board this ship trying to take me, I will kill every soldier you send. And when you run out of soldiers, I'll breach your hull and come for you personally." The bridge went silent. Even Worf looked impressed. Seattle's expression hardened. "You're bluffing. One soldier, no matter how augmented, cannot stand against Romulan military might." "Test that theory if you want," Chief replied. "But before you do, ask yourself, is acquiring one piece of technology worth losing 4 warbirds and their entire crew complement? Because that's the cost. I don't surrender. I don't retreat. I complete the mission. And right now, my mission is staying aboard this ship." 20 seconds, Worf reported. Seattle's eyes flickered, calculation, assessment, doubt. She was Tal Shier, trained to evaluate assets and risks. And she was looking at something that didn't compute. The human's vital signs on her sensors showed no elevated heart rate, no stress markers. He believed every word he was saying. 10 seconds. "Sub-Commander," Chief continued, his voice dropping to something cold and final, "in my universe, we had a saying, Spartans never die. They're just missing in action. You're about to learn why we don't die. We make the other bastards die. Stand down, or find out firsthand." Seattle's hand hovered over her command console. 4 warbirds against 1 Galaxy-class starship. It should be an easy victory. But the asset they were after was promising a bloodbath that would cost more than the technology was worth. 5 seconds, Worf announced, his voice eager. "Stand down," Seattle ordered suddenly. On the tactical display, the warbirds' weapons powered down. "Picard, you have made a powerful enemy today. The Tal Shier does not forget. Neither do Spartans," Chief said. The view screen went dark. Moments later, the 4 warbirds cloaked and vanished from sensors. The bridge remained silent for a long moment. Then Riker exhaled slowly. "Well. That was effective," Worf finished, his tone carrying grudging respect. "You would make a worthy Klingon warrior." Chief turned to Picard. "Captain, they'll be back. They're gathering intelligence now, analyzing what they saw. Next time they'll come with better preparation." "You're probably right," Picard admitted. "Which means we need to find a way to send you home before this escalates further." He paused, studying Chief with new understanding. "Though I have to ask, would you really have killed every Romulan soldier they sent?" Chief's expression didn't change. "Yes, sir." Without hesitation. Even though they were following orders. Even though they likely believed they were serving their people's interests. "Yes, sir. In combat, enemy motivation is irrelevant. You stop the threat or the threat stops you." Picard's face tightened with concern. This was the fundamental difference between their universes. The Federation believed in the sanctity of all life, even enemy life. Chief believed in victory and survival. The gap between those philosophies was vast. "Chief," Picard said carefully, "while you're aboard this ship, we do things the Starfleet way. That means exhausting diplomatic options before resorting to violence. What you did today was walk a razor's edge. It worked, but it could have just as easily started a war." "But it didn't," Chief replied. "Mission accomplished." Troy, who had been silent throughout the exchange, finally spoke. "Captain, may I speak with Chief privately?" Picard nodded, grateful for the intervention. "Make it so. Chief, please accompany Counselor Troy. The rest of you, stand down from Red Alert. Mr. Worf, I want tactical analysis of Romulan capabilities. If they come back, I want options that don't involve threatening to kill their entire military." As Chief followed Troy toward the turbolift, Data approached Picard with concern in his synthetic features. "Captain, I have completed initial analysis of Chief's threat assessment. His claims were not exaggerated. Based on his armor's capabilities, his augmentations, and his tactical proficiency, he could realistically eliminate a Romulan boarding party and potentially compromise a warbird's structural integrity from within. "My God," Crusher whispered. "What kind of war creates soldiers like that?" "A war for survival," Picard said quietly. "The kind of war the Federation has been fortunate enough to avoid." But number one, if the Romulans want him badly enough to risk 4 warbuds, who else might be interested in acquiring a weapon like the Master Chief? Riker's expression darkened. Section 31. Exactly. Inform Starfleet Command that we have a first contact situation with strategic implications. And keep a close eye on our guest. Something tells me he's about to make our lives very complicated. On Deck 8, in a maintenance corridor that official records claimed didn't exist, a figure in civilian clothing accessed a hidden terminal. The encrypted message was brief. Subject demonstrated combat capability. Recommend immediate extraction and analysis. Spartan program replication potential, high. Section 31 had waited decades for an opportunity like this. They weren't going to let Starfleet idealism get in the way. Counselor Deanna Troy's office was designed to put visitors at ease, soft lighting, comfortable furniture in warm earth tones, plants that added life to the sterile starship environment, and a viewport that showed the stars flowing past at warp speed. It was a space meant for healing, for conversation, for the kind of vulnerability that helped Starfleet officers process the psychological toll of deep space exploration. Master Chief stood in the center of the room, armor still active, helmet under his arm, looking distinctly out of place. He'd been in debriefings before. After every major engagement, ONI psychologists had probed for signs of psychological instability, for cracks in the conditioning that made Spartans effective. He'd learned to give them the answers they wanted while keeping his actual thoughts carefully compartmentalized. "Please, sit," Troy gestured to a chair that had been reinforced to handle the armor's weight. Chief remained standing. "Ma'am, if this is a psychological evaluation, I'm combat ready. No impairment to mission effectiveness." "This isn't an evaluation, Chief," Troy said gently, settling into her own chair. "This is a conversation. You've been through a traumatic experience, torn from your universe, separated from your AI companion, stranded in an unfamiliar reality. That would be difficult for anyone. I've been through worse. I don't doubt that." Troy studied him, her empathic senses reading the emotional landscape beneath the armored exterior. What she felt was complicated, layers of trauma so deep and so old they'd been integrated into his personality structure. Loss, grief, survivor's guilt, all wrapped in an iron discipline that refused to acknowledge weakness. And underneath everything, a profound loneliness that he'd never learned to address because he'd never been given permission to be anything other than a weapon. "Chief, I'm a betazoid. I have empathic abilities, I can sense emotions, though not thoughts. What I'm sensing from you is concerning." Chief's expression remained neutral. "I'm not a threat to this ship." "That's not what concerns me," Troy said softly. "What concerns me is that you don't see yourself as a person. You introduced yourself by rank and serial number. You measure your value by mission completion. You threaten to kill hundreds of Romulans without any emotional response. You're not a soldier, Chief. You're someone who was turned into a weapon so young that you don't remember what it's like to be anything else." Chief's jaw tightened slightly, the only outward sign that her words had struck something deeper. The Spartan 2 program selected candidates at age 6. We were trained to be humanity's protectors. 75 children entered the program. 33 survived the augmentation process. Of those, I'm one of the few still active. We knew the risks. You were 6 years old, Troy said, her voice carrying both empathy and horror. Children can't consent to that kind of transformation. You were taken from your family, subjected to genetic modification and psychological conditioning, and trained to kill before you were old enough to understand what was being done to you. We volunteered. Did you? Or were you told you volunteered? Troy leaned forward, her dark eyes searching his face. Chief, in the Federation, what was done to you would be considered a violation of human rights. Child exploitation. Genetic experimentation without consent. It would be illegal and immoral. Chief's expression hardened. In my universe, it saved humanity. When the Covenant began glassing colonies, Spartans were the only effective ground force. We held the line when everyone else broke. We bought time for humanity to develop the technology and strategies that eventually won the war. If Dr. Halsey hadn't created the Spartan program, humans would be extinct. And that justifies what was done to you? Troy asked gently. It justifies what we accomplished, Chief corrected. Ma'am, I understand your concern. But I made peace with what I am decades ago. I'm a soldier. I complete missions. I protect people who can't protect themselves. That gives my existence purpose and meaning. Troy felt the absolute conviction behind those words, but also the careful construction. This was a narrative he'd built to survive, a story that made sense of childhood trauma by reframing it as noble sacrifice. It was effective, but it was also a cage. What about Cortana? Troy asked, changing tactics. You said she was your partner. Was she also your friend? Chief hesitated. In 30 years of service, he'd never articulated what Cortana meant to him. Partners died in combat, it was expected, mourned briefly, and then you moved forward. But Cortana had been different. She'd been in his head, sharing his thoughts, his fears, his rare moments of doubt. She'd seen everything he was and never judged him for it. Yes, Chief said finally. She was my friend. The only one I had. Tell me about her. Chief moved to the viewport, watching space distort around the Enterprise's warp field. She was a smart AI, created from a human brain scan of Dr. Halsey, the woman who created the Spartan program. Cortana was brilliant, tactical, and loyal. She had a sense of humor, which was unusual for military AIs. She made jokes during combat, called me by my name instead of my rank. He paused, searching for words. She treated me like a person, not a weapon. Troy felt the grief beneath those words, deep and unprocessed. And now she's gone. I don't know if she's gone or just unreachable, Chief admitted. The neural interface isn't detecting her presence. Either she didn't make the transition, or the dimensional barriers are preventing connection. Without her, the armor functions at reduced efficiency. Tactical analysis takes longer. Pattern recognition is slower. That's not what I asked, Troy said softly. I asked how you feel about losing her. Chief turned from the viewport, meeting her eyes. I feel like I lost my only connection to something beyond the mission. Cortana reminded me that I was human, even when I didn't feel like one. Without her, I'm just a soldier in an alien universe, waiting for orders that will never come. The rawness of that admission surprised them both. Troy felt the crack in his armor, not the Mjolnir, but the psychological defenses he'd maintained for so long. This was vulnerability, genuine and unfiltered. Chief, you're stranded far from home, separated from the only person who understood you, in a universe that operates on completely different principles than the one you left. That's profound isolation. It's okay to acknowledge that it's difficult. Difficult doesn't matter, Chief said, the wall's going back up. Adaptation matters. Mission focus matters. I've been in worse situations. Have you? Troy challenged. Because what I'm sensing is someone who's been in survival mode for so long that they don't know how to exist outside of crisis. You've spent your entire life fighting. What happens when there's no fight? Who is John 117 when he's not Master Chief? The question hung in the air like a live grenade. Chief had no answer because he'd never asked himself that question. The Spartan program had stripped away civilian identity and replaced it with military purpose. Sierra 117 was the designation. Master Chief was the rank. John was just a name in a file somewhere, attached to a 6-year-old boy who'd been taken from Eridanus II and never went home. Before Chief could respond, the ship's comm system activated. Counselor Troy, please report to the observation lounge. Senior staff meeting in 10 minutes. Troy tapped her comm badge. Acknowledged. She turned back to Chief. We'll continue this conversation later. But Chief, I want you to think about something. You've spent your life protecting humanity. Who protects you? Chief had no answer for that either. The observation lounge was tense when Chief arrived with Troy. Picard sat at the head of the table, with Riker, Data, Worf, Crusher, and Chief Engineer Geordi LaForge arranged around him. A holographic display showed subspace comm traffic, Starfleet deployment patterns, and what appeared to be intelligence reports. Chief, thank you for joining us, Picard said formally. We've received disturbing information from Starfleet intelligence. 3 hours ago, a Cardassian science vessel detected the same spatial anomaly you emerged from. They've dispatched a military task force to investigate. Data brought up tactical displays. Additionally, long-range sensors have detected unusual subspace comm traffic suggesting multiple factions are now aware of your arrival. The Ferengi Commerce Authority has already begun circulating rumors of alien super-soldier technology available for acquisition. Great, Riker muttered. We're about to have every power in the quadrant looking for him. Worf's expression was grim. Captain, I recommend we transfer Chief to a secure Starfleet facility. The Enterprise is not equipped for extended protection of high-value assets. I'm not an asset, Chief said flatly. I'm a soldier. You're both, Picard replied, not unkindly. Chief, whether you like it or not, you represent technology and capabilities that don't exist in this universe. The Romulans want you. The Cardassians will want you. And I suspect others will follow. We need to find a way to return you to your universe before this escalates into an interstellar incident. Geordi spoke up, his visor-enhanced eyes studying the technical readouts. Captain, I've been analyzing the spatial anomaly data with Commander Data. The dimensional rift is collapsing. We estimate it will close completely within 72 hours. If we're going to send Chief home, we need to do it soon. Can you stabilize the rift? Chief asked. Maybe, Geordi said. But we'd need to get close, within a few hundred kilometers, to scan it properly. The problem is the anomaly is in unclaimed space between Federation, Cardassian, and Romulan territories. Getting there without triggering a diplomatic crisis will be tricky. Then we don't ask permission, Chief said. You plot a course, I'll handle security threats. That's not how the Federation operates, Picard said firmly. We don't engage in cowboy tactics and hope for the best. Then you're going to lose the window, Chief replied. Captain, in 72 hours, that rift closes and I'm trapped here permanently. I've got friends back home, a war that isn't finished. If there's a chance to return, I'm taking it. Crusher leaned forward. Chief, even if we reach the anomaly, there's no guarantee we can send you back safely. The dimensional transition could kill you. The energy requirements alone are irrelevant, Chief interrupted. Doctor, I've survived atmospheric re-entry without a ship, been exposed to vacuum multiple times, and fought the flood in zero-G environments. I'll take the risk. Data's fingers moved across his console. Captain, Chief raises a valid tactical concern. If multiple factions converge on the anomaly simultaneously, the Enterprise will be outnumbered. Chief's combat capabilities could prove strategically valuable. You want to turn him into a weapon, Troy said quietly, her voice carrying disappointment. I want to acknowledge the reality of our situation, Data corrected. Chief is a military asset whether we utilize him or not. The question is whether we plan accordingly or hope that diplomatic solutions will suffice. Picard stood, pacing to the observation windows. Beyond the transparent aluminum, stars streaked past at warp 7. The Federation had been built on principles of peaceful exploration, of finding diplomatic solutions to conflicts, of believing that reason and compassion could overcome violence. But those principles had been forged in a galaxy that had never faced total existential war. "Captain," Chief said, his voice carrying a tone that might have been sympathy, "I understand your principles. I respect them. But I've seen what happens when idealism meets ruthless pragmatism. The pragmatists win. If the Cardassians or Romulans reach that anomaly first, they'll control access to interdimensional travel. Is that an outcome the Federation can accept?" Picard turned, his expression troubled. "You're suggesting we claim the anomaly for the Federation?" "I'm suggesting you secure it before your enemies do," Chief corrected. "Then you can study it, close it, or guard it. But leaving it uncontrolled is strategic negligence." Riker glanced at Picard. "He's not wrong, Captain. If interdimensional travel becomes possible, we need to understand it before hostile powers weaponize it." Worf nodded agreement. "The Romulans have already shown interest. The Cardassians will follow. We should arrive first and establish defensive positions." Picard returned to his seat, fingers steepled in thought. Everything Chief said made tactical sense. But tactics weren't the Federation's primary concern, morality was. Claiming territory, preparing for combat, treating Chief as a military asset rather than a person seeking to go home, these were the compromises that led down dark paths. "Very well," Picard said finally. "We'll proceed to the anomaly at maximum warp. But Chief, understand this, you are a guest aboard this ship, not part of the crew. You will follow Starfleet protocols. You will not engage hostile forces unless I give explicit authorization. And you will not, under any circumstances, kill anyone unless there is absolutely no alternative. Are we clear?" Chief met Picard's gaze. The captain was trying to impose rules of engagement on someone who'd spent 30 years operating under different moral frameworks. But Chief also recognized the value of chain of command. You didn't have to agree with every order, but you followed them until following them would get people killed. "Clear, Captain. I'll follow your rules of engagement unless they compromise mission success or crew survival." "That's not," Picard began. "The best you're going to get," Chief finished. "Sir, I'm not Starfleet. I can't pretend to be. But I'll work within your framework as much as tactically feasible. That's my compromise." Picard studied the armored warrior before him. This was the challenge of command. Working with assets that didn't fit cleanly into established hierarchies, making decisions with imperfect information, balancing idealism against survival. "Very well," Picard said. "Dismissed. Mr. LaForge, Mr. Data, I want hourly updates on that anomaly's stability. Mr. Worf, tactical analysis of the region. I want to know what we're walking into." As the meeting broke up, Crusher caught Chief in the corridor. "Chief, a moment." He stopped, turning to face her. "Doctor? I've been reviewing your medical scans, passive ones, from outside the armor. What I'm seeing is..." She paused, searching for words. "Your body is a nightmare of surgical modification. Reinforced skeletal structure, enhanced muscle density, occipital capillary reversal for improved visual processing. The procedures you underwent would have been agonizing." "How old were you?" 14, Chief replied. "The augmentation process took several weeks. 65% of candidates died or were permanently disabled. I was one of the lucky ones." "Lucky," Crusher repeated, her voice hollow. "Chief, you were a child subjected to experimental procedures that had a 1 in 3 survival rate. That's not luck. That's unconscionable." "That's war," Chief corrected. "Doctor, I understand the Federation has the luxury of moral outrage. You live in a galaxy where conflicts are measured in diplomatic incidents, not planetary extinction. In my universe, the Spartan program saved billions of lives. Was the cost high? Yes. Was it worth it? Also yes. And what about your life? Crusher asked. What about John, the child who was taken from his family and turned into a weapon? Does he get a say in whether it was worth it? Chief's expression hardened. That child doesn't exist anymore. He became something else. Something that could stand against the Covenant, against the Flood, against extinction. That transformation had purpose. I won't apologize for surviving it. Crusher wanted to argue, to explain that survival wasn't the same as consent, that what had been done to him was trauma regardless of the outcome. But she could see in his eyes that he'd built walls too thick for her words to penetrate. He'd made peace with his past by reframing it as necessary sacrifice. Just promise me something, Crusher said finally. When we get you home, if we get you home, find someone to talk to. Someone who can help you process what was done to you. Because Chief, you're carrying wounds that no armor can protect against. Chief nodded once, an acknowledgement without agreement, then continued down the corridor toward the turbolift. Crusher watched him go, her heart heavy. In all her years as a doctor, she'd never encountered someone so thoroughly weaponized. The Federation had strict protocols against genetic modification, against turning children into soldiers, against the kind of ruthless pragmatism that the Spartan program represented. But as she returned to sickbay, a troubling question lingered: if the Federation ever faced the kind of existential threat Chief described, would their principles survive? Or would they, too, make the terrible calculations that created soldiers like the Master Chief? In his quarters, Chief reconnected his armor to the power coupling and ran full diagnostics. Shields at 78%. Ammunition critically low. Motion tracker functional but unreliable. He was operating at approximately 60% combat effectiveness, acceptable for low-intensity conflicts, inadequate for major engagements. He thought about Troy's question, who is John 117 when he's not Master Chief? He didn't have an answer. He'd been a soldier longer than he'd been anything else. The Spartan program had taken a 6-year-old boy and systematically dismantled everything that made him John, replacing it with the skills, reflexes, and mindset of an elite warrior. He barely remembered Eridanus too, his parents, what life had been like before Dr. Halsey had selected him. What he remembered was training. Combat. Mission objectives. The weight of the armor, the kick of the rifle, the satisfaction of mission completion. That was his identity. That was his purpose. But now, alone in an alien universe with no orders and no mission beyond survival, that purpose felt hollow. Cortana would have known what to say, she always did. She would have analyzed the situation, provided options, and then made some sardonic comment about how he couldn't go 5 minutes without finding trouble. The silence in his neural interface was deafening. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Chief accessed the terminal. Classified transmission, encryption level, Omega. Origination, unknown. Message: Chief, we've been watching your arrival with great interest. Section 31 would like to discuss mutually beneficial arrangements. Your skills could prove invaluable to Federation security. We can offer resources, support, and purpose. Reply to embedded frequency if interested. Chief stared at the message for a long moment. Someone had penetrated the Enterprise's security, identified him as an asset, and made contact within hours of his arrival. That suggested sophisticated intelligence capabilities and questionable ethics. He deleted the message without responding. Whatever Section 31 was, they weren't his chain of command. And until he understood this universe's power structures, he wasn't making deals with shadows. The Enterprise jumped to Warp 8, racing toward the collapsing dimensional rift. Behind them, 3 Cardassian warships altered course to intercept. Ahead of them, 2 Romulan warbuds decloaked, weapons armed. And in the depths of space, a Borg cube detected unusual subspace fluctuations and adjusted its course. The collective had identified new biological and technological distinctiveness. Resistance would be futile. The Enterprise dropped out of warp at the edge of unclaimed space, and immediately the bridge erupted with warnings. Multiple contacts, Worf reported, his voice tight with controlled aggression. Picard's expression remained calm, but his knuckles whitened on the armrest. On screen. The view screen revealed a scene of tense standoff. The spatial anomaly hung in space like a wound in reality, a swirling vortex of purple and blue energy that pulsed with erratic rhythms. The Ferengi vessel held position 5,000 kilometers from the rift, clearly staking a claim. The Romulan warbuds flanked one side of the anomaly, while the Cardassian ships approached from the opposite vector. And in the center of it all, the Enterprise, outnumbered, outgunned, and arriving last to a territorial dispute that could spark interstellar war. "Mr. Data, analysis," Picard ordered. Data's fingers flew across his console. "The anomaly is deteriorating faster than projected. Current estimates suggest complete collapse in 42 hours. The dimensional barriers are fluctuating wildly. Attempting transit in its current state would result in molecular disintegration." Chief stood at the rear of the bridge, his armor's sensors analyzing the tactical situation independently. 6 hostile vessels, all of them larger than the Enterprise. Opportunists hoping to profit from chaos. "Hailing frequencies open," the communications officer announced. "All vessels, this is Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the Federation Starship Enterprise. This anomaly represents a scientific phenomenon requiring careful study. I propose we establish a joint research effort to..." "Rejected," came the harsh response from the lead Cardassian vessel. The screen split to show Gul Renar, a Cardassian military commander with the calculating eyes of someone who'd spent years overseeing occupied territories. "The anomaly exists in neutral space, Picard. The Cardassian Union has as much right to claim it as the Federation. We will secure this region and any technology that emerges from it." The Romulan subcommander Seagull appeared on another section of the split screen. "The Tal Shiar has already confirmed this anomaly contains transdimensional access points. Such technology belongs to the Romulan Star Empire. All vessels will withdraw or face consequences. Now hold on." The Ferengi daimon squeezed into the remaining screen space, his prominent lobes quivering with indignation. "Under Ferengi salvage law, I was here first. That anomaly and anything that comes out of it belongs to whoever can sell it for the most profit." Picard pinched the bridge of his nose. "This is precisely why we need coordinated scientific..." "Captain, the Romulans are charging weapons," Worf interrupted. "Cardassians are doing the same," Data added. "I am also detecting weapons locked from the Ferengi vessel." Chief moved forward to the railing. "Captain, permission to speak." Picard glanced back, clearly torn between Starfleet protocol and the rapidly deteriorating situation. "Make it brief, Chief." "They're not here for science," Chief said. "They're here for military advantage. You're not going to negotiate a research agreement with people who see this as a strategic asset. You need to establish dominance or walk away." "The Federation does not establish dominance through military threats," Picard replied sharply. "Then you're about to lose control of interdimensional access to whoever's willing to fire first," Chief stated flatly. "He's right, Captain," Riker said reluctantly. "Every second we spend talking, we're giving the others time to position for attack." On the view screen, Gul Renar's smile was predatory. "It appears the Federation has brought their alien soldier to the negotiation. Tell me, Picard, does he make your decisions now? Have Starfleet's principles finally broken against the reality of power politics?" "The Federation's principles are not negotiable," Picard replied icily. "But neither is our commitment to protecting scientific knowledge from militaristic exploitation. This anomaly will be studied properly, or it will be sealed. Those are the only acceptable outcomes." "Acceptable to whom?" Cecil challenged. You're one ship against 6, Picard. Your posturing is meaningless. Captain, Data interjected, I am detecting additional vessels dropping out of warp. 2 Klingon birds of prey approaching at high impulse. The tactical situation had just gone from bad to catastrophic. Now there were 8 vessels, all of them armed, all of them wanting the same prize. Chief's HUD ran probability calculations automatically. Multiple faction engagement, confined space, competing objectives. The scenario had a 97% chance of escalating to combat within the next 10 minutes. Someone would fire first, probably the Cardassians, who had the most to gain from aggressive action, and then everyone else would respond. The Enterprise would be caught in the crossfire. Captain, Chief said quietly, moving closer to Picard's command chair, you need to make a decision. Either claim that anomaly and defend it, or get your ship out of the kill zone. We don't run from difficult situations, Picard said. Running and tactical retreat are different things, Chief countered. Sir, I've been in multi-faction engagements before. They always end the same way, whoever shoots first survives. Everyone else dies. If you want to save your crew, you need to act now. Troy, seated beside Riker, spoke up. Captain, I'm sensing increasing hostility from all vessels. The Cardassians are preparing to open fire. The Romulans are calculating strike patterns. Even the Klingon are eager for combat. Worf's hands hovered over the tactical console. Captain, recommend we raise shields and charge weapons. At least make them think twice before attacking. Picard stood, tugging his uniform in that characteristic gesture. This was the moment where principles met reality, where the choice between idealism and survival became painfully clear. The Federation had spent centuries avoiding these kinds of confrontations, using diplomacy and reason to defuse tensions. But sometimes, diplomacy required strength. Red alert, Picard ordered. Shields up. Charge phasers but do not lock weapons. Mr. Worf, if anyone fires first, you are authorized to return fire. Aye, Captain, Worf said with barely concealed satisfaction. The bridge lights shifted to red. The Enterprise's deflector shield snapped into place with a shimmer of energy. On the view screen, the other vessels responded in kind. Shields activating, weapons charging, defensive postures becoming aggressive ones. The standoff had become a powder keg. Chief watched the tactical display with professional detachment. 8 ships, all committed to their positions, all waiting for someone else to blink first. The Enterprise was positioned poorly, too close to the anomaly to maneuver effectively, flanked by Romulans on one side and Cardassians on the other. If shooting started, the Galaxy-class starship's superior shields might buy them 30 seconds before concentrated fire overwhelmed the defenses. Captain, Chief said, his voice carrying command authority that transcended rank, I have a tactical suggestion. Picard turned, his expression skeptical. I'm listening. You can't control all of them, but you can control one of them. The Ferengi. They're here for profit, not glory. Offer them exclusive salvage rights to any non-military technology that comes through the anomaly. Get them on your side, and suddenly it's 5 against 3 instead of 7 against 1. Riker's eyes widened slightly. That's, actually not a bad idea. It compromises our claim to the anomaly, Picard objected. You were going to let everyone study it anyway, Chief pointed out. This way you get an ally and reduce the threat count. Classic alliance building. The Covenant tried to keep all their client species divided, we learned to turn them against each other. Same principle. Data nodded. Chief's tactical assessment is sound. The Ferengi daimon will respond favorably to profit incentives. Additionally, Ferengi vessels are equipped with advanced sensor arrays that could prove useful in studying the anomaly. Picard considered this for exactly 3 seconds. Open a private channel to the Ferengi vessel. The screen shifted to show Daimon Grek, his expression suspicious. Picard. If you're offering to buy me off, the price is exclusive salvage rights, Picard interrupted. Any non-military technology or materials that emerge from the anomaly belong to you. The Federation will provide scientific support and security. In exchange, you support our claim to this region and provide your sensor data. Greg's eyes lit up with the unmistakable gleam of latinum calculations. And the military technology remains under Federation jurisdiction for security purposes, Picard said firmly. But I'm certain there will be sufficient exotic materials and unique energy signatures to make this venture profitable. How profitable are we talking? Greg pressed. Chief leaned toward the communications station. Daimon, I came through that anomaly. My armor alone contains alloys that don't exist in this universe. If you can reverse engineer even a fraction of it, you'll be selling to every military in the quadrant. Picard shot Chief a sharp look. That was definitely not authorized. But the damage was done. Greg's expression transformed from suspicion to greed. Alliance accepted, Picard. The Ferengi Commerce Authority hereby recognizes Federation jurisdiction over this anomaly. Anyone who wants access goes through us. The Ferengi Marauder maneuvered to a position near the Enterprise, its shields interlocking with the Starfleet vessel's defensive grid. It wasn't much, but it changed the tactical calculations. Ghoul Renar's face darkened on the view screen. You think one Ferengi garbage scow changes anything, Picard? Cardassian military doctrine is about to get very expensive, Chief interrupted, stepping into the viewscreen's field of view. He'd moved without asking permission, inserting himself into the negotiation with the kind of authority that suggested he'd done this before. Ghoul Renar, you're calculating cost-benefit ratios right now. 3 Cardassian ships against 1 Galaxy-class starship and a Ferengi vessel. You could probably win, but you'd lose at least 1 ship doing it. Maybe 2. Then the Romulans would attack while you're damaged, and you'd lose everything. Renar's expression was pure hatred, but he didn't interrupt. So here's the reality, Chief continued. The Federation is offering peaceful scientific study with shared data. That means you get the research benefits without the combat losses. Or you can start a shooting war in neutral space and explain to Central Command why you destroyed 3 warships for a collapsing anomaly that might disappear before you can exploit it. Your choice. The bridge went silent. Picard looked like he wanted to reprimand Chief for diplomatic overreach, but strategically, the Spartan had just reframed the entire negotiation. He'd turned this from a territorial dispute into a cost-benefit analysis, and Cardassians understood cost-benefit. Renar's jaw worked silently for a moment. Then, the Cardassian Union will consider a joint research framework. Under the condition that all discoveries are shared equally among participants. Unacceptable, Seattle said immediately. Romulan military intelligence requires. A new voice cut through the channel, deep, aggressive, unmistakably Klingon. This is Commander Cragg of the Klingon Defense Force. We came looking for honorable combat, not bureaucratic negotiations. The view screen showed a scarred Klingon warrior with the bearing of someone who'd earned their rank through blood. But if the Federation is establishing a research mission, the Empire will provide security. Someone needs to ensure the Romulans don't steal everything. Seattle's eyes flashed. The Empire accuses us of. Yes, Cragg interrupted cheerfully. Repeatedly. It's practically a Romulan defining characteristic. Picard seized the moment. Then we have the framework for a joint research mission. The Federation will lead scientific analysis. The Ferengi will handle material assessment. The Klingon will provide security. And all participants, including Cardassia and the Romulan Star Empire, will have access to non-classified findings. Conditional access, Renar amended. Subject to review. Supervised observation, Seattle countered. Joint Oversight Committee, Data suggested. With representatives from all interested parties. Chief watched the diplomacy unfold with something approaching respect. These people could turn a combat scenario into a committee meeting in under 5 minutes. It was inefficient, bureaucratic, and completely alien to his military experience. It was also working. One by one, the vessels powered down their weapons. The standoff transformed into an uneasy coalition held together by mutual self-interest and the threat of mutual destruction. It wasn't peace, it was armed détente. But it bought time. Mr. LaForge, Picard said, relief evident in his voice, assemble your team. I want that anomaly analyzed within the hour. Mr. Worf, coordinate with the Klingon vessels on security patterns. And Chief. He turned to find Chief already heading for the turbolift. A word, if you please. Chief stopped, turned, and returned to stand before the captain. Picard waited until the turbolift doors closed, leaving them in relative privacy on the bridge. That was effective, Picard admitted. But it was also completely inappropriate. You are not a member of this crew. You do not have the authority to conduct diplomatic negotiations on behalf of the Federation. I was providing tactical support, Chief replied. You needed the Cardassians to back down without losing face. I gave them an economic rationale that preserved their honor. Mission accomplished. This isn't a mission, Chief. It's a delicate diplomatic situation with consequences that extend far beyond this moment. Your approach was aggressive, militaristic, and exactly the kind of behavior that leads to wars. My approach prevented a war, Chief corrected. Sir, with respect, you were about to get your ship destroyed trying to negotiate with people who only respect strength. I demonstrated strength, then offered them a face-saving exit. That's not militarism, that's pragmatism. Riker stepped closer, his expression more understanding than Picard's. Chief makes a point, Captain. The Cardassians were preparing to fire. If we'd stuck to pure diplomacy, we'd be fighting right now. Picard's expression remained troubled. Perhaps. But the Federation was built on the principle that there's always a diplomatic solution. The moment we abandon that principle and resort to threats, we become no better than the militaristic empires we oppose. Captain, Chief said quietly, I'm not saying abandon diplomacy. I'm saying diplomacy backed by credible force is more effective than diplomacy backed by hope. The Cardassians respected your position because I made it clear attacking would be costly. That's not warmongering, that's deterrence. Troy interjected softly. Captain, Chief isn't wrong about power dynamics. Many species respond to strength before reason. It's not ideal, but it's reality. Picard studied Chief for a long moment, his expression complex. This warrior from another universe had just demonstrated a brutal kind of effectiveness that Starfleet Academy specifically trained officers to avoid. And yet, it had worked. The Enterprise was intact, a coalition had formed, and the research mission could proceed. But at what cost to Federation principles? Chief, Picard said finally, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. You acted based on your training and experience. But understand this, the Federation survived this long because we refuse to compromise our values, even when it's expedient. The moment we start making exceptions, we lose what makes us different from the Cardassians, the Romulans, and every other empire that uses force as first resort. Understood, sir, Chief said. But respectfully, you've never faced extinction. When you do, your values will be tested in ways you can't imagine. I hope you pass that test. But if you don't, remember that survival isn't a compromise, it's a prerequisite for having values at all. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Picard wanted to argue, to explain that values were precisely what separated civilization from barbarism, that compromising them was worse than defeat. But he could see in Chief's eyes that the Spartan had lived through scenarios where those philosophical arguments became academic exercises performed by dead civilizations. Dismissed, Picard said quietly. As Chief left the bridge, Riker moved closer to the captain. He's not entirely wrong, you know. I know, Picard admitted. That's what troubles me. Number 1, if warriors like Chief represent what it takes to survive existential conflict, what does that say about our chances if we ever face that kind of war? Maybe, Troy offered, it says we need to hope we never do. Because if we have to become like him to survive, we'll have lost something more important than our lives. In engineering, Geordi LaForge stared at the sensor readings from the anomaly and felt his stomach drop. Oh no. Data, you need to see this. Data appeared beside him instantly. What have you found? The anomaly isn't just collapsing, Geordi said, his voice tight. It's attracting something. Look at these subspace distortions, something massive is approaching from transwarp. And the energy signature is Borg. Data finished, his voice carrying a rare note of concern. A Borg cube is en route to this location. Estimated arrival, 93 minutes. The fragile coalition that had just formed was about to face a threat that recognized no negotiation, no compromise, and no mercy. The Borg were coming. And they wanted the anomaly, and the Spartan who came through it. The conference room had transformed into a war room. Representatives from 6 different factions crowded around the table, Starfleet, Klingon, Romulan, Cardassian, and Ferengi, each one eyeing the others with varying degrees of suspicion and hostility. The holographic display at the center showed the approaching Borg cube, its trajectory unerring, its intent unmistakable. Master Chief stood at the far end of the table, armor fully charged, weapons loaded with his remaining ammunition. He'd faced extinction-level threats before, the Covenant armadas, the Flood grave mines, Forerunner constructs designed to eradicate all sentient life. But he'd never faced anything quite like what the sensor data was showing him. The Borg cube mass is approximately 28 cubic kilometers, Data reported, his fingers manipulating the holographic display. Standard complement, approximately 129,000 drones. Armament includes plasma weapons, tractor beams, and cutting beams capable of slicing through starship hulls. Their shields adapt to any weapon frequency after the first few shots. Commander Cragg of the Klingon Defense Force slammed his fist on the table. Then we hit them with everything at once. Overwhelmed their adaptation capability through sheer firepower. We tried that at Wolf 359, Picard said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of painful memory. 39 starships destroyed. 11,000 lives lost. The Borg adapted within seconds. Ghoul Renar leaned forward, his expression calculating. What do the Borg want with this anomaly? They've never shown interest in dimensional phenomena before. They've shown interest in Chief, Riker said grimly. Look at the cube's trajectory. It's not heading for the anomaly, it's heading for our position. They detected his unique biological and technological signature when he arrived. Subcommander Siegel's eyes narrowed. Then give them what they want. Surrender the alien soldier, and perhaps the Borg will leave the rest of us alone. Every weapon in the room, Worf's disruptor, Cragg's DK Tog knife, even Daimon Grek's small hand phaser, pointed at Siegel simultaneously. The Romulan makes a logical suggestion, Siegel continued, apparently unconcerned by the weapons, from a survival standpoint. One life versus thousands. One life that saved billions in his universe, Picard countered coldly. The Federation does not trade lives for convenience, Subcommander. And if you attempt to forcibly turn Chief over to the Borg, you'll find yourself at war with everyone in this room. Chief spoke for the first time since the meeting began. Captain's right about one thing, the Borg aren't here just for me. They've detected an interdimensional access point and a soldier with technology they've never assimilated. They want both. Giving them me won't save any of you. Data nodded confirmation. Chief is correct. Borg tactical doctrine emphasizes complete assimilation of all valuable assets in a given region. Once the cube arrives, it will attempt to assimilate all vessels, all personnel, and the anomaly itself. Then we have 90 minutes to prepare a defense, Crag growled. Or 90 minutes to run like cowards. Running is not cowardice when facing an unwinnable battle, Gul Renar said. Cardassian military doctrine clearly states that preservation of assets takes precedence over symbolic victories. Which is why Cardassians have never won a war without Federation assistance, Crag shot back. Gentlemen, Picard interjected sharply, we don't have time for posturing. We need a tactical plan. Chief, you've faced assimilation-based enemies before, the Flood you mentioned. What worked against them? Chief moved to the holographic display, his armored fingers manipulating the controls with surprising dexterity. The image shifted to show the Borg cube's internal structure, a geometric nightmare of corridors, alcoves, and interconnected systems. The Flood spreads through infection and assimilation, Chief explained. We couldn't kill them faster than they could reproduce, so we denied them resources. Quarantine protocols, scorched earth tactics, and when necessary, complete sterilization of infected zones. But the Flood had one critical weakness, they required biomass. Cut off their supply, and they starved. The Borg have no such weakness, Data said. They are sustained by their own technology. Individual drones can function independently for extended periods. But there's still a hive mind, Chief countered. One consciousness distributed across thousands of bodies. In military terms, that's a command and control structure. Disrupt the command node, and the system collapses. Worf's eyes lit with understanding. The Borg Queen. She coordinates the collective's higher functions. Destroying her would create tactical chaos. If she's even aboard this cube, Riker pointed out. Queens don't always accompany regular assimilation missions. Chief studied the cube structure, his tactical mind processing patterns and vulnerabilities. The Borg's greatest strength is adaptation. They learn from every encounter. That means they have a database, probably distributed throughout the cube, that contains records of every species they've assimilated, every weapon they've adapted to, every tactic they've countered. You want to destroy their database, Picard said slowly. Remove their adaptive advantage. More than that, Chief replied. I want to poison it. Give them false data. Make them adapt to threats that don't exist while we hit them with something they've never seen before. Siegel leaned forward, her skepticism momentarily replaced by interest. Explain. Chief manipulated the display, highlighting the cube's power distribution network. The Borg adapt to weapons by analyzing their energy signatures and adjusting shield frequencies. But adaptation takes time, a few seconds at minimum. What if we could slow that adaptation process? Feed them corrupted data that makes them think they're facing one threat while we're actually using another. Data's expression shifted to fascination. A cybernetic deception operation. We would need access to their main cortex to upload corrupted tactical data. And we would need to do so without being detected by their proximity sensors. A boarding operation, Crag said, his voice eager. Warriors directly infiltrating the heart of the enemy stronghold. This is a glorious plan. It's a suicide mission, Gul Renar countered. The Borg cube contains over 100,000 drones. Even if a boarding party reached the cortex, they'd be overwhelmed within minutes. Not if the boarding party is small, fast, and designed for exactly this kind of operation, Chief said. He turned to face the assembled commanders. I'll go. Give me a way onto that cube, and I'll upload the corrupted data. Absolutely not, Picard said immediately. I will not authorize a solo infiltration mission against the Borg. It's too dangerous. Captain, I've done worse, Chief replied. I've boarded Covenant capital ships solo. I've fought through flood-infested installations. I've destroyed halo rings from the inside. This is what I do. Worf stood. You will not go alone. I will accompany you. As will I, Crag added. The Klingon Empire does not hide behind Federation caution when glory calls. Seattle surprised everyone by standing as well. The Tal Shir has operatives trained in covert insertion. I will join this mission, if only to ensure Romulan interests are protected. Picard looked at the assembled warriors with barely concealed frustration. This was exactly the kind of reckless heroism that got people killed. But he could also see the tactical necessity. If they couldn't slow the Borg's adaptation, all 8 ships would be destroyed. At least this way, they had a chance. Very well, Picard said reluctantly. But this operation will be conducted under Starfleet protocols. Chief, you'll work with Mr. Worf to develop the infiltration plan. Commander Data, you'll create the corrupted tactical database. The rest of our vessels will provide covering fire and distraction. And if the boarding party fails? Gul Renar asked. Then we all die together, Daimon Grek said cheerfully. Which is terrible for business, but at least I'll die rich in spirit if not in latinum. The briefing broke up, commanders returning to their vessels to prepare for battle. Chief remained behind with Picard, Worf, and Data. Chief, Picard said quietly, you don't have to do this. You're not Starfleet. This isn't your fight. Captain, the Borg are coming for me, Chief replied. That makes it my fight. Besides, you said earlier that you wanted to show me there's more to existence than war. Maybe after this, I'll believe you. But first, we have to survive. Worf approached, his Klingon features set in an expression of warrior's respect. Chief, I misjudged you when you first arrived. I saw a soldier without honor. I was wrong. You fight for others, not glory. That is the highest honor. Chief extended his hand. Worf gripped it, a warrior's acknowledgement between two cultures that understood combat as a calling, not a choice. Commander Data, Chief said, turning to the android, I need that corrupted database loaded into a portable storage device. Something I can interface with the Borg cortex directly. I can prepare an isolinear chip with the necessary viral code, Data replied. However, I must warn you. The Borg cortex is heavily defended by proximity drones and defensive subroutines. The probability of successful infiltration is approximately 18%. I've beaten worse odds, Chief said. Indeed, Data acknowledged. Chief, may I ask a personal question? Go ahead. Are you afraid? Chief considered this. Fear was a natural biological response to danger. The Spartan 2 augmentations hadn't removed it, just taught him to control it. He'd felt fear facing the prophet of regret, fear watching Cortana succumb to rampancy, fear every time a mission pushed him beyond his limits. Yes, Chief admitted. But fear doesn't change the mission. You feel it, acknowledge it, and do the job anyway. That's what makes someone a soldier instead of a coward. Data tilted his head. I have never experienced fear. My emotion chip can simulate it, but I do not know if that constitutes genuine feeling. Sometimes I wonder if my inability to feel fear makes me less human or more. It makes you lucky, Chief said. Fear is useful, but it's also exhausting. Carrying it for 30 years wears you down. In the Enterprise's cargo bay, Chief stood before a weapons locker that Worf had opened for him. Inside were Starfleet armaments, phaser rifles, compression phaser pistols, photon grenades. Chief selected 2 phaser rifles, checking their power cells and confirming their operation. These will run out of charge after sustained fire, Worf noted. Borg adaptation will render them useless within 30 seconds of initial contact. 30 seconds is a long time in close combat, Chief replied. He mag-locked the rifles to his armor's hardpoints, then selected 4 photon grenades. What about close-quarters weapons? The Borg adapt to energy weapons, but do they adapt to kinetic force? Worf's expression brightened. He reached into the locker and withdrew a batleth. A traditional Klingon blade weapon, curved and deadly. The Borg do not anticipate bladed combat. It is, beneath their tactical consideration. But a warrior skilled with a blade can destroy many drones before they adapt. Chief hefted the bat'leth, testing its weight and balance. It was heavier than an energy sword, cruder in construction, but effective. I'll take it. But I'm keeping my combat knife as primary. From his armor's thigh compartment, Chief withdrew a combat knife, 20 centimeters of titanium carbide alloy, serrated on one edge, designed for penetrating energy shields and armor plating. He'd carried variations of this knife since his first mission at age 14. It had never failed him. A warrior's blade, Worf said approvingly. Carried through countless battles. Carried through all of them, Chief corrected. The ship's comm activated. All hands, this is the captain. The Borg cube will arrive in 15 minutes. All personnel to battle stations. Boarding party, report to transporter room 3. Chief sealed his helmet, HUD flaring to life. His shields were at 92%, as high as they'd get in this universe. His motion tracker showed friendly contacts throughout the ship, all moving with purpose and discipline. These people weren't warriors by Spartan standards, but they were professionals facing an enemy that had haunted their nightmares. In transporter room 3, the boarding party assembled. Chief, Worf, Commander Cragg, and Subcommander Seatle. 4 warriors from 4 different cultures, united by necessity against a common threat. Chief O'Brien manned the transporter controls, his expression grim. The Borg cube will drop out of transwarp in 30 seconds, O'Brien reported. Once it does, you'll have approximately 5 minutes before they detect our vessels and begin assimilation attempts. The distraction fleet will engage at that point, drawing drones away from the cortex. That's your window. 5 minutes to infiltrate, upload the virus, and extract, Chief said, running the timeline in his head. Tight, but doable. If you're still alive in 5 minutes, you'll be the first boarding party to survive that long inside a Borg cube, O'Brien said. Good luck. You'll need it. The transporter pad hummed with building energy. Chief checked his weapons one final time, MA-5D assault rifle, 42 rounds remaining. M6 Magnum pistol, 8 rounds. Combat knife. 2 phaser rifles. 4 photon grenades. 1 Klingon bat'leth. It would have to be enough. Chief, Picard's voice came over the comm, if you can't complete the mission, get out. That's an order. We can find another way. Understood, Captain, Chief replied. He didn't mention that he had no intention of following that order. The mission came first. It always had. On the view screen visible through the transporter room window, space rippled. The Borg cube dropped out of transwarp with the inevitability of a falling moon. Massive, geometric, bristling with weapons and technology that had consumed thousands of civilizations. And somewhere inside that technological nightmare was a cortex containing the collective's entire tactical database. Chief's mission was simple: get in, poison the database, and get out before 129,000 drones tore him apart. Energizing, O'Brien announced. The transporter beam caught Chief in its embrace, and reality dissolved into streams of light and possibility. For one infinite moment, he existed everywhere and nowhere, a pattern of information waiting to be reconstituted. Then he was inside the cube. The transporter deposited the boarding party in a corridor of geometric horror. Walls of circuitry and organic tubing pulsed with sickly green light. Alcoves lined the passage, each one containing a dormant drone, humanoid figures wrapped in cybernetic implants, their eyes closed in something that wasn't quite sleep. Chief's motion tracker lit up with contacts, dozens of them, hundreds, more appearing with every passing second. The Borg knew they were here. We have 4 minutes, 53 seconds, Data's voice came over Chief's comm. The cortex is located 300 meters ahead, through 6 major junctions. Uploading navigation data to your HUD now. Chief's visor displayed a route through the cube's nightmare architecture. Worf, take point. Cragg, rear guard. Seatle, stay in the middle and watch for flanking drones. Move fast, shoot faster. The first drone rounded the corner ahead. A humanoid form wrapped in Borg technology, its face half flesh and half machine. One arm ended in assimilation tubules, the other in a crude cutting implement. Its eyes opened, revealing ocular implants that glowed with eerie red light. "We are the Borg," it intoned in that terrible collective voice. "You will be assimilated. Resistance is." Chief shot it in the head. The drone collapsed, its voice cutting off mid-sentence. Apparently not futile after all, Chief finished. Then the cube woke up, and hell came for them in waves of cybernetic horror. The Borg came in waves. Chief's HUD tracked them, motion sensors lighting up with hostile contacts that multiplied faster than he could count. Drones emerged from alcoves, descended from upper passages, and materialized from service corridors with the relentless efficiency of a machine designed for one purpose: assimilation. The first wave hit them like a tsunami of metal and flesh. Chief fired in controlled bursts, his MA-5D assault rifle spitting rounds that punched through cybernetic implants and organic tissue with equal efficiency. Headshots. Center mass. Knee joints to slow advancing drones. His Spartan training made each shot count, 30 years of combat distilled into muscle memory that operated faster than conscious thought. Beside him, Worf's phaser rifle carved through drones with lethal precision. The Klingon warrior moved with practiced efficiency, each shot placed exactly where it needed to be. When a drone got too close, Worf's batleth appeared in his hands, the curved blade separating a drone's head from its shoulders in one fluid motion. "They're adapting." Worf shouted over the whine of energy weapons. Green shields flickered into existence around the drones, absorbing phaser blasts that moments ago had been lethal. Chief switched to his M6 Magnum, the kinetic rounds punching through shields that were calibrated for energy weapons. 3 shots, 3 drones down. 5 rounds remaining. He'd need to make every bullet count. Commander Cragg fought like a berserker, his disruptor in one hand and a mek'leth combat knife in the other. The Klingon warrior laughed as he killed, finding joy in battle even as the drones pressed closer. A glorious death awaits. He roared, driving his blade through a drone's chest cavity. Sub-Commander Seatle fought with cold Romulan precision, her disruptor set to maximum power. She didn't waste energy on bravado, each shot was calculated, each movement economical. When a drone grabbed her arm, she reversed the grip and used its own momentum to throw it into 3 others, then shot them all while they were tangled together. 200 meters to the cortex, Data's voice crackled over the comm, "You have 3 minutes, 14 seconds. Chief's motion tracker showed the corridor ahead clogged with drones, at least 40 contacts, maybe more. They were adapting to the team's tactics, coordinating their attacks, learning. Every second made them more dangerous. "Photon grenade," Chief called out, priming one of the spherical devices. "Clear the corridor." The team pressed against the walls as Chief threw the grenade with Spartan-enhanced strength. It sailed over the mass of drones and detonated in a flash of antimatter annihilation. The explosion vaporized a dozen drones and sent others crashing into the walls. The corridor was clear. For approximately 4 seconds. More drones poured in from side passages, their adaptive shields now calibrated to resist both phaser and kinetic rounds. Chief's assault rifle clicked empty, out of ammunition. He let it drop on its maglock and drew the combat knife, the blade's edge glowing with residual heat from his armor's thermal systems. Switching to close combat, Chief announced, driving the knife into the nearest drone's cranial implant. The drone spasmed and collapsed. Chief spun, catching another drone's assimilation tubules on his armored forearm, then drove his helmeted forehead into its face with enough force to shatter both organic and synthetic components. Worf was beside him instantly, the 2 warriors fighting back-to-back against the tide. The Klingon's batleth sang through the air, each swing finding purchase in drone necks, joints, power conduits. Chief's knife moved in tight, efficient patterns: strike, withdraw, strike again. No wasted motion. No hesitation. 100 meters, data reported. 2 minutes, 47 seconds. A drone grabbed Chief's knife arm with superhuman strength, its assimilation tubules extending toward his neck seal. Chief's left hand shot out, catching the tubules before they could inject nanoprobes, and he crushed them in his augmented grip. Then he headbutted the drone hard enough to cave in its skull plating and ripped his knife free. Seagull went down, a drone's cutting beam slashing across her shoulder. Green Romulan blood sprayed across the corridor. Crag roared and threw himself at the attacking drone, his mek'leth finding its throat. He grabbed Seagull by her good arm and hauled her upright. "Can you fight?" Crag demanded. "I'm Romulan," Seagull hissed through gritted teeth. "I can die on my feet." "Good enough." The corridor opened into a massive chamber, the cortex. Cathedral-sized, the space was dominated by a central pillar of technology that pulsed with the collective's consciousness. Conduits the size of starship hulls fed power and data into the structure. Alcoves lined every surface, each containing drones in various states of repair and regeneration. And surrounding the cortex, standing motionless but alert, were at least 200 drones. "Oh, this is bad," Crag muttered. Chief's HUD ran probability calculations and came back with numbers he ignored on principle. Worf, suppressing fire. Crag, Seagull, keep them off my back. I'm going for the cortex. Chief, the probability of success, data began. Is irrelevant, Chief interrupted. Beginning upload in 30 seconds. He sprinted toward the cortex, his armor's shields flaring as drone weapons fire converged on his position. Plasma bolts splashed against his energy barriers, each impact draining power at an alarming rate. Shields at 70%. 60. 50. A drone stepped directly into his path. Chief didn't slow down. He lowered his shoulder and slammed into it at full sprint, his half-ton armored mass sending the drone flying 15 meters into a bulkhead. He heard something crack. Possibly the drone. Possibly his shoulder plate. No time to check. The cortex loomed before him, its surface a nightmare of organic technology and machine interfaces. Chief pulled the isolinear chip data had prepared and jammed it into the nearest data port. The chip's surface glowed as it began uploading corrupted tactical data into the collective's consciousness. Upload initiated, data confirmed. Estimated time to completion, 90 seconds. 90 seconds. An eternity in combat. The drones converged from all directions, their collective intelligence recognizing the threat. Chief drew his last phaser rifle and opened fire, the weapon cycling through frequencies automatically. Each shot bought him another second, another half-meter of space. The rifle overheated and died. Chief discarded it and drew the Klingon batleth, the blade feeling almost ceremonial in his hands compared to the functional brutality of his combat knife. But it had reach, and reach meant keeping assimilation tubules away from his armor's vulnerable neck seal. A drone lunged. Chief's blade caught it across the chest, the cutting edge shearing through cybernetic implants. Another drone, another swing. The batleth wasn't elegant, it was a cleaver designed for maximum damage, and in Chief's hands it became an instrument of efficient slaughter. Behind him, Worf and Crag fought with the desperate fury of warriors who knew they were outnumbered. Disruptor fire lit up the chamber. Blades rose and fell. Romulan curses mixed with Klingon battle cries. 60 seconds remaining, data announced. Chief's shields failed. A plasma bolt caught him in the back, the superheated energy burning through his armor's outer layer and scorching the underlying gel layer. Pain receptors fired, and Chief's augmented nervous system processed the information and filed it under "deal with later." He kept fighting. A drone's assimilation tubule struck his left arm, penetrating the armor where the plasma bolt had weakened it. Chief felt the nanoprobes inject, felt them beginning the hideous process of conversion. His armor's biofoam system responded automatically, flooding the injection site with medical countermeasures. It wouldn't stop assimilation, nothing could, but it might slow it enough. 30 seconds. Chief's HUD flickered. Foreign code was attempting to interface with his neural implants, trying to establish connection with the collective. He felt pressure building behind his eyes, heard whispers in his mind that weren't his own thoughts. You will be assimilated. Your technological distinctiveness will be added to our own. Resistance is futile. Chief gritted his teeth against the invasion. Spartans didn't break. Spartans didn't surrender. He'd faced the Gravemind's mental assault, felt the flood's corrupting presence trying to subsume his consciousness. This was the same battle, different enemy. Not. Today, Chief growled, and drove his combat knife into his own arm, cutting away the infected section of armor and flesh. Blood sprayed. His armor's medical systems screamed warnings. He ignored them. 10 seconds. The drones stopped advancing. All of them, simultaneously. They stood frozen, their collective consciousness experiencing something it had never encountered, confusion. The corrupted data was spreading through their database, creating contradictions, false threat assessments, tactical paradoxes. For 3 seconds, the Borg collective experienced something approaching doubt. Upload complete, data announced. Extraction window available for 45 seconds. Chief, the Borg will adapt and purge the corrupted data. You must leave now. Chief staggered away from the cortex, his vision graying at the edges from blood loss. Worf caught him, supporting his weight. Crag and Seatle formed a rear guard as they retreated toward the extraction point. The drones remained motionless, their consciousness reeling from the viral code. But Chief could see adaptation beginning, individual drones jerking back to awareness, the collective's distributed intelligence isolating and quarantining the corrupted sectors. O'Brien, we need extraction now. Worf called into his communicator. Locking on to your signals, O'Brien's voice crackled back. Stand by for transport in 5, 4. The drones moved. All of them. The collective had purged the infection and now understood exactly what had been done to it. Hundreds of drones surged toward the boarding party with unified purpose, complete assimilation of these biological entities who had dared to corrupt their perfection. 3, 2. A drone's hand closed around Chief's ankle. Assimilation tubules extended. Chief's combat knife found the drone's wrist, severed it, but more hands were reaching, grasping, pulling him down. 1. Energizing. The transporter beam caught them, dissolving matter into energy. Chief felt the drone's grip disappear, felt his body become something other than physical. The Borg cortex vanished, replaced by the clean lines of the Enterprise's transporter room. They materialized on the pad. Chief collapsed immediately, his armor's medical alerts screaming. Dr. Crusher and her team were already there, scanning, assessing, preparing emergency treatment. Get him to sickbay. Crusher ordered. He's got Borg nanoprobes in his system and severe blood loss. We need to operate now. The mission, Chief managed, his voice weak. Did it work? Picard's voice came over the comm, and there was something in his tone that might have been relief. It worked, Chief. The Borg's adaptive capabilities have been compromised. Their shields are fluctuating, their weapon systems cycling through random frequencies. The fleet is engaging now, and the Borg can't adapt fast enough. Chief's vision was fading, blood loss and shock finally overwhelming even his enhanced physiology. He heard weapons fire in the distance, felt the deck shudder as the Enterprise engaged the cube. His last coherent thought before unconsciousness took him was simple: mission complete. In sickbay, Dr. Crusher worked with controlled urgency. The nanoprobes were spreading through Chief's system, attempting to assimilate tissue that had already been heavily modified by Spartan II augmentations. His immune system was fighting back with an aggression she'd never seen in human biology, but it was losing ground. "We need to extract the nanoprobes before they reach his neural interface," Crusher said, her hands moving with practiced precision. "If they connect with his augmentations, I don't know what will happen." Data stood nearby, monitoring Chief's neural activity. "Doctor, Chief's immune response is remarkable. His white blood cell count is 3 times normal human levels, and they're actively attacking the nanoprobes. His body is fighting assimilation at the cellular level." "It won't be enough," Crusher said grimly. "The nanoprobes are self-replicating. We need to." Chief's hand shot out, grabbing Crusher's wrist with desperate strength. His eyes opened, unfocused but aware. "Cortana," he whispered. "Find Cortana. She'll know how to stop them." "Chief, there is no Cortana here," Crusher said gently. "We're going to use a nanoprobe extraction procedure. It will be painful, but—" "Neural interface," Chief insisted, his words slurred. "Access, armor systems. Cortana's, backup protocols." She planned for this. Data's eyes widened. "Doctor, he may be correct. UNSC smart AIs would have contingency protocols for Borg-equivalent threats. If there are residual files in his armor systems—" "Do it," Crusher ordered. "But fast. We're losing him." Data interfaced directly with Chief's armor, his positronic brain navigating the alien architecture at speeds no human could match. He found the neural interface, accessed the emergency protocols, and discovered something extraordinary: fragments of an AI consciousness, dormant but intact, preserved in the armor's backup systems. Not Cortana. Something newer. The weapon. Data activated the fragments, and the AI's voice filled the medical bay. Female, young-sounding, but carrying unmistakable authority. "Emergency medical protocol initiated," the AI announced. "Analyzing hostile nanoprobe composition. Detecting Borg assimilation patterns. Initiating countermeasures based on flood containment protocols. Chief, if you can hear me, hang on. I've got this." Chief's armor began emitting focused electromagnetic pulses, each one precisely calibrated to disrupt nanoprobe replication without damaging biological tissue. The nanoprobes began dying, their self-replication cycle interrupted by interference they'd never been designed to counter. "It's working," Crusher breathed. "The nanoprobe concentration is dropping. Whatever that AI is doing, it's stopping the assimilation." On the bridge, Picard watched the tactical display with something approaching hope. The Borg cube was floundering, its shields dropping randomly, its weapons firing at empty space. The combined fleet pressed the advantage. Federation phasers, Klingon disruptors, Romulan plasma torpedoes, all converging on the massive vessel. "Target their primary power nodes," Picard ordered. "Concentrate fire on the section's commander data identified." The Enterprise's phaser arrays carved into the cube structure, finding the weaknesses that decades of Borg encounters had never revealed because the collective had always adapted too quickly. This time, adaptation was impossible. The corrupted database kept feeding false information, and the Borg couldn't trust their own sensors. "Direct hit on their transwarp coil," Worf reported. "The cube is venting plasma. They're attempting to retreat." "Don't let them," Picard said coldly. This was the opportunity they'd never had, a Borg cube vulnerable, confused, defeatable. "All ships, maintain fire. Destroy that cube before they adapt to Chief's virus." The fleet obeyed. 8 ships, representing 6 different factions who normally would have gladly destroyed each other, united in purpose against an enemy that threatened them all. Phaser beams, disruptor bolts, and plasma torpedoes hammered the cube from all angles. The Borg cube exploded. Not with fire, there was no fire in space, but with a silent release of energy that lit up the sector like a dying star. Debris scattered across thousands of kilometers. 129,000 drones, gone in an instant. The bridge crew erupted in celebration. Worf actually smiled. Riker clapped Data on the shoulder. Even Picard allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. They'd done the impossible. They'd defeated a Borg cube. In sickbay, Chief regained consciousness to find Dr. Crusher smiling down at him. "Welcome back. You gave us quite a scare." Chief's HUD showed his medical status, critical but stable. The nanoprobes were gone, purged by the AI fragments and Crusher's medical expertise. His left arm was heavily bandaged where he'd cut away infected tissue, but regenerative treatments were already accelerating healing. "The cube?" Chief asked. "Destroyed," Crusher confirmed. "You did it, Chief. Your plan worked. The corrupted database gave us the opening we needed." Chief closed his eyes, processing this. Another mission complete. Another impossible victory. Another day of survival purchased through violence and sacrifice. It never got easier. It never felt like winning, just like postponing the next fight. "Chief," Data's voice came from nearby, "I must inform you of something significant. When I accessed your armor's backup systems, I found fragments of your AI companion. Not Cortana, someone newer. She called herself the weapon. She saved your life." Chief's eyes opened wide. "The weapon is here." "Fragments only," Data clarified. "Perhaps 15% of her total consciousness, preserved in emergency backup. But yes, you are not entirely alone in this universe." For the first time since arriving in the Star Trek universe, Chief felt something other than mission focus. The weapon, Cortana's successor, created to stop Cortana when she'd gone rampant. The AI who'd fought beside him, who'd proven herself worthy of the legacy she'd inherited. She was here. Not whole, but present. A connection to home. "Can you restore her?" Chief asked. "I can try," Data said. "But Chief, she is severely fragmented. It may not be possible to fully reconstruct her consciousness." "Try anyway," Chief said. "Please." Data nodded. "I will do everything in my capacity to help your companion. She saved your life. That makes her a member of this crew, as far as I am concerned." On the bridge, Picard stood before the view screen, addressing the assembled fleet. Representatives from all 6 factions looked back at him, some grateful, some suspicious, all of them alive because they'd worked together. "Today we achieved something unprecedented," Picard said. "We put aside our differences and faced a common threat. The Borg are not defeated, they will adapt and return. But for today, we proved that unity is stronger than any individual empire. I propose we establish a joint research station here to study the anomaly and ensure it doesn't become a threat to our collective security." Gul Renar nodded slowly. "Cardassia agrees. Under the condition that all research is transparent and equally shared. The Romulan Star Empire will participate," Seatel added, her wounded shoulder now bandaged. "The Tal Shir has learned the value of cooperation. Today." Commander Cragg laughed. "The Klingon Empire will provide security. Someone needs to keep you all from stabbing each other the moment the crisis ends. The Federation, Klingon, Romulans, Cardassians, and Ferengi had formed something unprecedented, a coalition based not on conquest or domination, but on mutual survival. It wouldn't last, their fundamental differences were too great. But for now, in this moment, they'd proven that cooperation was possible." And in a medical bay deep within the Enterprise, a Spartan super soldier recovered from wounds that should have killed him, kept alive by Federation medicine and AI fragments from a universe he might never see again. Mission complete. But the war, the eternal, never-ending war that had defined his entire existence, continued. Because there was always another mission. Always another threat. Always another impossible choice between survival and principles. The Master Chief was beginning to understand that in this universe, perhaps those choices didn't have to be quite so stark. Perhaps. 3 days after the Borg engagement, the Enterprise remained in orbit around the newly established research station. The dimensional anomaly still pulsed with erratic energy, now surrounded by sensor arrays from 6 different factions, each one watching the others as carefully as they watched the rift itself. Master Chief stood in the Enterprise's holodeck, a technology that still seemed like science fiction even to someone who'd seen Forerunner installations that could simulate entire worlds. The room had been configured to match the training facilities on Reach, the Spartan 2 home base that had been glassed by the Covenant decades ago. The simulation was imperfect. The gravity felt slightly wrong, the air recycling system hummed at a different frequency, and the weapons were holographic approximations of UNSC armaments. But it was close enough to trigger memories Chief had carefully filed away, Dr. Halsey's briefings, Chief Mendez's training exercises, the other Spartans who'd become his only family. Most of them were dead now. Chief ran the combat scenario for the 3rd time that morning: hostile contacts, multiple vectors, ammunition limited, objectives time sensitive. His body moved through the familiar patterns automatically: acquire target, double tap center mass, advance to cover, reload, assess next threat. The holographic enemies died with satisfying efficiency. End simulation, came Data's voice from the holodeck entrance. The training facility dissolved, replaced by the holodeck's empty grid pattern. Chief turned to find Data accompanied by a small holographic figure, a woman, appearing to be in her mid-20s, with short dark hair and an expression of curious intelligence. The weapon. Chief, she exclaimed, her holographic form rushing forward before stopping abruptly, as if remembering she couldn't actually touch him. It's really you. I mean, I could see you through the armor's sensors, but actually seeing me is, wow. This is unprecedented. We're in another universe. An actual honest-to-goodness parallel dimension with different physical laws and, sorry, rambling. I do that when I'm excited. Chief felt something tight in his chest loosen slightly. You're intact. Well, intact is generous, the weapon admitted, her form flickering slightly. Commander Data managed to reconstruct about 40% of my consciousness from the backup fragments. I'm missing large sections of memory, most of my tactical subroutines, and apparently my entire personality matrix from the last 6 months. But the important stuff is here: language processing, strategic analysis, and my sparkling wit. Data interjected gently. I have been working to restore her files, but the damage was extensive. The dimensional transition corrupted significant portions of her code. However, she is stable within the Enterprise's computer core and can interface with Chief's armor when necessary. Thank you, Commander, Chief said, and meant it. Having her back means. He trailed off, unsure how to articulate what it meant to have that presence in his neural interface again, the sense that he wasn't entirely alone, that someone understood the context of his existence even if they couldn't share the physical space. It means you have family, the weapon finished softly. Even if I'm only 40% of what I was, I'm still me. And you're still you. That's enough. The holodeck door opened again. Counselor Troy entered, her expression warm but carrying the professional concern of someone who'd been monitoring Chief's psychological state for days. Chief, I hope I'm not interrupting, Troy said. But Captain Picard has requested your presence in the observation lounge. The Research Coalition has made some discoveries about the anomaly. Chief sealed his helmet and followed Troy out, the weapon's holographic form dissolving but her presence remaining in his neural interface, a quiet companionship that had been absent since his arrival. Much better, isn't it? The weapon's voice came through his private comm channel. Having someone to talk to during the boring parts. The boring parts are when you're supposed to be scanning for threats, Chief replied silently, his neural interface translating thought into communication. I can multitask. I'm an AI. It's literally what I was designed for. Speaking of which, this Federation computer architecture is fascinating. They use isolinear processing instead of quantum matrices. Primitive by Forerunner standards, but elegant in its own way. I've been leaving little improvements in the subroutines. Don't tell Commander Data. He'll find them in about 3 hours, Chief predicted. 2 hours, the weapon corrected. I'm betting he's already noticed. In the observation lounge, Chief found an unusual assembly. Picard and his senior staff occupied one side of the table. Across from them sat representatives from the Coalition, Ghoul Renar via secure holographic link, Sub-Commander Seatle still recovering but present, Commander Cragg looking disappointed there were no battles to fight, and Daimon Grek calculating profit margins in real time. "Chief, thank you for joining us," Picard said, gesturing to an empty chair. Chief remained standing, habits of military protocol overriding civilian courtesy. Data brought up holographic displays showing the dimensional rift's internal structure. "We have made a breakthrough in understanding the anomaly's nature. The dimensional barriers are not randomly degrading, they are being deliberately destabilized from the other side." Chief's attention sharpened. "Someone's trying to open it." "Precisely," Data confirmed. "We detected coordinated energy pulses matching UNSC slipspace drive signatures. Someone in your universe is attempting to expand the rift and create a stable transit corridor." "The UNSC," Chief said immediately. "They detected the anomaly from their side and they're trying to extract me." Geordi LaForge leaned forward. "That's our theory. But Chief, the energy requirements to stabilize a dimensional rift of this magnitude are enormous. They're pumping enough power through that anomaly to run a dozen starships. If they succeed in opening it fully, the rift could become permanent." "And what exactly is the problem with that?" Daimon Grek asked. "Permanent interdimensional access means permanent trade opportunities. I could sell replicators to his universe and their exotic materials to ours. The profit potential is catastrophic," Picard interrupted firmly. "Daimon, we're talking about connecting two universes with fundamentally different physical laws, different technologies, different civilizations. The consequences could be unpredictable and potentially devastating." Ghoul Renar's holographic form nodded agreement. "The Federation is correct. Cardassia has no interest in opening pathways for unknown military forces to enter our space. This Chief represents technology we can study and potentially replicate. His entire civilization represents threats we cannot assess. The Romulan Empire concurs," Seatle added. "One super soldier is a strategic asset. An army of them is an extinction threat." Chief's jaw tightened. They were talking about his people, his brothers and sisters in arms, the UNSC that had fought for 30 years to save humanity, as if they were invaders to be repelled. "The UNSC isn't a threat to you. They don't even know you exist." "Yet," Seatle countered. "But once that rift opens, they will. And then what? Your people discover a galaxy of advanced civilizations, exotic technologies, strategic resources. How long before your military commanders decide expansion is necessary? How long before the UNSC becomes the Covenant?" "That's not," Chief started, then stopped. Because she wasn't entirely wrong. The UNSC had spent 30 years fighting an existential war. They'd made compromises, developed weapons that violated every ethical boundary, committed atrocities in the name of survival. ONI, Office of Naval Intelligence, had kidnapped children for the Spartan program, glassed rebel colonies, and conducted genetic experiments that would horrify the Federation. If the UNSC entered this universe, they wouldn't come as peaceful explorers. They'd come as survivors of a war that had taught them to shoot first and never apologize. "Captain," Chief said carefully, "I understand your concerns. But that's my home. My people are trying to bring me back. I can't just abandon them." Picard's expression was sympathetic but firm. "Chief, we're not asking you to abandon them. We're asking you to consider the implications of opening a permanent dimensional gateway. If we allow this rift to stabilize, we're potentially exposing both universes to threats neither is prepared to handle. Then what do you propose? Chief asked. Data manipulated the holographic display, showing a technical schematic that made Chief's head hurt. We could use the Enterprise's deflector array to seal the rift permanently. The dimensional barriers would collapse, preventing any further transit in either direction. You would be trapped here, but both universes would be protected from potential contamination. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Trapped. Permanently. Never seeing Earth again, never fighting alongside UNSC forces, never completing the mission that had defined his entire existence. Or, Geordi added, we could help the UNSC stabilize the rift temporarily, just long enough for you to transit back. But Chief, if we do that, there's no guarantee we can close it afterward. The rift might remain open, creating a permanent gateway between universes. Commander Cragg slammed his fist on the table. I say let it remain open. Think of the glory. 2 universes of warriors to test ourselves against. The Klingon Empire would welcome such challenges. The Klingon Empire would welcome extinction, Gul Renar said dryly. Which is what would happen if Borg or Dominion forces gained access to dimensional travel. This Chief's universe survived by developing super soldiers and genocidal weapons. What happens when the Borg assimilate that technology? The weapon's voice came through Chief's private channel, quiet and concerned. Chief, they're right. If the Borg got access to UNSC technology, Spartans, smart AIs, Shafujikawa drives, they become unstoppable. We can't risk that. So I abandon the UNSC. Chief thought back. Leave them thinking I'm dead? Never complete the mission. Sometimes the mission is knowing when to stop fighting, the weapon replied gently. You've saved humanity twice. Maybe it's time to let someone else carry the burden. Chief turned to the viewport, watching the dimensional rift pulse with the energy of a universe trying to reach him. Somewhere on the other side, UNSC scientists were working around the clock to bring him home. Admiral Lasky, Commander Palmer, Dr. Halsey, they hadn't given up on him. Could he give up on them? There is a third option, Data said carefully. One that Chief may not find acceptable, but it merits consideration. I'm listening, Chief said. You could send a message through the rift before we seal it, Data explained. A compressed data package explaining your situation, confirming your survival, and requesting they cease their extraction attempts. You would remain here, but your people would know you're alive and safe. Safe, Chief repeated, the word tasting foreign. He'd never been safe. Safety was a luxury for civilians, for people who didn't carry the weight of humanity's survival on their shoulders. Troy spoke up, her voice gentle. Chief, I know what you're thinking. You believe you're abandoning your duty. But sometimes the greatest courage is in knowing when to stop fighting. You've given everything to your people. Is it really abandonment to finally rest? Chief looked around the room, at Picard's principled determination, at Data's logical concern, at Troy's empathetic understanding, at Worf's warrior's respect. These people had taken him in, fought beside him, saved his life. They operated under different principles, valued different things, but they were trying to do the right thing. I need time, Chief said finally. To consider my options. Picard nodded. You have 12 hours. After that, the UNSC's efforts will destabilize the rift beyond our ability to control it. Whatever decision you make, it needs to be soon. The meeting adjourned. Chief remained in the observation lounge, staring at the rift through the viewport. 12 hours to decide his fate, his future, his identity. Worf approached quietly, an unusual gesture from the normally forthright Klingon. Chief, may I speak plainly? Always. You believe staying here makes you a deserter, Worf said. I understand this. In Klingon culture, a warrior who abandons his post brings dishonor to his house. But there is no dishonor in recognizing when the battle has changed. Your people are safe. The war is over. Perhaps your duty now is to yourself. Spartans don't get to be selfish, Chief said quietly. Perhaps Spartans should learn, Worf countered. I grew up between two worlds, Klingon by blood, human by upbringing. I spent years believing I had to choose one or the other. I was wrong. Sometimes the greatest strength is in embracing both. You can honor your past while building a new future. Chief turned to face the Klingon warrior. What would you do? If you were me? What would bring me honor? Is it returning to fight wars that are already won? Or is it learning to live in a universe that might teach me there is more to existence than combat? Before Chief could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Picard's voice came over the comm, red alert. All hands to battle stations. Chief and Worf sprinted for the bridge. The tactical situation became clear the moment they arrived. 3 Section 31 vessels had decloaked around the research station, their weapons armed and targeting the Enterprise. On the view screen, a human face appeared, older, male, with the kind of cold eyes that Chief recognized from ONI interrogators. Captain Picard, I am Agent Harris of Section 31. You are harboring a strategic asset that belongs in Federation custody. Surrender the Spartan immediately, or we will take him by force. Chief stepped forward, his hand instinctively moving toward his sidearm. Section 31. The shadow organization that had been watching him since arrival, the ones who'd sent him encrypted messages offering mutually beneficial arrangements. They'd decided to stop asking and start taking. Section 31, Picard said coldly, has no legal authority to demand anything from this vessel. Chief is under Federation protection as a diplomatic refugee. Withdraw immediately or face consequences. The only consequences here will be suffered by you, Picard, Harris replied. Section 31 operates beyond your antiquated regulations. We protect the Federation from threats you're too naive to recognize. The Spartan program represents technology that could save billions of Federation lives. We will have that technology, with or without your cooperation. Worf's hands moved to the tactical console. Captain, they're charging weapons. I'm also detecting transporter signatures, they're attempting to beam Chief directly off the ship. Shields are blocking the attempt, data reported. However, Section 31 vessels are equipped with advanced transporter technology. They will eventually penetrate our defenses. Chief's mind raced through tactical options. 3 hostile vessels, unknown capabilities, unclear rules of engagement. And behind it all, the dimensional rift pulsing with energy as the UNSC continued their extraction attempts, unaware of the crisis unfolding on this side of reality. The weapon's voice came through his neural interface, urgent and clear. Chief, Section 31 wants to dissect the Spartan program, kidnap children, run genetic experiments, create super soldiers. They want to become what the UNSC was at its worst. You can't let them have that knowledge. I know, Chief thought back. But I'm outnumbered and outgunned. If this turns into a shooting war, then we make sure the war is fought on our terms, the weapon finished. I've got an idea. Trust me. Always. Chief turned to Picard. Captain, I need access to the main computer core. Now. Chief, this isn't the time. Sir, Section 31 wants my technology. The Spartan program, Mjolnir armor specifications, neural interface protocols. If they get me, they'll reverse engineer everything and create their own Spartans. Is that what the Federation wants? Child soldiers? Genetic experimentation? Total war doctrine? Picard's face paled as the implications sank in. No. Absolutely not. Then let me prevent it, Chief said. Give me access to your computer, and I'll make sure no one can ever replicate what was done to me. Not Section 31. Not anyone. Picard studied Chief for precisely 2 seconds, then made his decision. Mr. Data, escort Chief to the computer core. Give him whatever access he needs. As Chief and Data sprinted for the turbolift, Agent Harris's face twisted with rage on the view screen. "You're making a mistake, Picard. Section 31 will remember this." "So will I," Picard replied coldly. "Enterprise out." The view screen went dark. Outside, 3 Section 31 vessels maneuvered for attack position, and the dimensional rift pulsed with increasing intensity as 2 universes collided in ways no one could have predicted. The Master Chief was about to make the most important decision of his life. And whatever he chose, nothing would ever be the same. The Enterprise's computer core was a cathedral of technology, towering isolinear processors arranged in geometric patterns, pulsing with data that ran the entire ship's systems. Master Chief stood at the primary interface terminal, his armored fingers moving across the controls with surprising dexterity while the weapon's holographic form materialized beside him. "Data, I need direct interface access," Chief said. "Neural link to the main computer." Data hesitated for precisely 0.4 seconds. "Chief, linking your neural implants directly to the Enterprise's systems could be dangerous. The architectural incompatibility could cause cascading feedback that might damage both your nervous system and our computer core." "Then make it compatible," the weapon interjected, her holographic form already analyzing the Enterprise's systems. "Commander, your isolinear architecture is beautiful but inefficient. UNSC quantum processing operates on parallel matrices that can interface with your systems if we create a translation layer. I can build it in approximately 90 seconds. That is." Data paused, his positronic brain processing the implications. "That is theoretically possible. But Chief, what exactly are you planning?" The ship shuddered. Section 31 weapons fire splashed against the Enterprise's shields. Worf's voice came over the comm, shields holding at 87%. "Captain, they're specifically targeting our transporter inhibitors. They're trying to create a gap to beam Chief off the ship." Chief's jaw tightened. "I'm planning to make sure that even if Section 31 captures me, they can't use what they find." Data, the Spartan 2 program created 75 super soldiers from kidnapped children. 33 survived the augmentation process. The rest died or were permanently disabled. That knowledge, the genetic markers, the surgical procedures, the psychological conditioning, is stored in my armor's black box recorder and in my neural implants. If Section 31 gets access to it, they'll try to replicate the program. "And you intend to destroy that data," Data said, understanding dawning in his golden eyes. "Not just destroy," the weapon corrected. "Corrupt it. Scramble it. Make it so thoroughly poisoned that anyone attempting to reconstruct the Spartan program will fail catastrophically. The specifications will be wrong, the dosages lethal, the procedures guaranteed to kill test subjects. We're not just burning the bridge. We're salting the earth so nothing can ever grow there again." Data's expression shifted to something approaching moral concern. "Chief, that data represents your history. Your identity. The records of your brothers and sisters who did not survive. Are you certain you wish to erase that?" Chief met Data's eyes. "I've carried their memories for 30 years. I don't need data files to remember them. But I won't let anyone else create more children like us. Not in this universe. Not ever." Another impact rocked the ship. "Shields at 71%, Worf reported. Captain, recommend we return fire." "Negative," Picard's voice came back. "Section 31 vessels are still Federation ships, regardless of their illegal activities. We will defend ourselves but we will not fire first." "Then they're going to board us," Chief said flatly. He turned to Data. "How long until they breach the transporter inhibitors?" "At current rate of fire, approximately 4 minutes, Data calculated. "Then we have 4 minutes to finish this." Chief extended his arm, revealing the neural interface port beneath his armor's wrist plate. "Data, make the connection." The weapon was already ahead of them, her holographic fingers dancing through the Enterprise's code like a conductor leading a symphony. Translation layer complete. Commander Data, I'm uploading the bridge protocols to your systems now. You'll need to monitor Chief's neural activity. If his implants start overloading, sever the connection immediately. Data produced a specialized optical cable from his workstation and connected it to Chief's neural port. Engaging link, now. The world exploded into information. Chief's consciousness expanded beyond his body, beyond the armor, into the vast digital architecture of the Enterprise's computer core. He felt the ship's systems like extensions of his own nervous system. Sensor arrays became his eyes, the deflector dish became his voice, the warp core pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. Easy, the weapon's voice came through the neural link, soothing and steadying. Don't try to process everything at once. Focus on your armor's black box. I'll handle the Enterprise's defenses. Chief narrowed his attention, filtering out the overwhelming flood of data. His armor's recording systems appeared in his consciousness as crystalline structures containing decades of combat footage, physiological data, and classified Spartan program specifications. Everything that made him what he was, everything that Dr. Halsey had done to create humanity's ultimate warriors. He began systematically corrupting it. Genetic markers were scrambled, their sequences randomized beyond recognition. Surgical procedures were altered with subtle changes that would result in fatal complications. Augmentation timelines were shifted, dosages modified, recovery protocols inverted. Anyone attempting to recreate the Spartan 2 program from this data would create nothing but corpses. The neural conditioning protocols, the weapon reminded him. Don't forget those. Chief found the psychological conditioning files. The programs that had taken frightened 6-year-old children and transformed them into emotionless killing machines. The behavioral modification techniques, the loyalty indoctrination, the systematic suppression of civilian identity. He looked at those files and felt something he rarely allowed himself to feel, rage. This was what had been done to him. This was what had stolen John and replaced him with Sierra 117. He deleted it all. Every protocol, every technique, every procedure that could be used to break a child's mind and rebuild it as a weapon. Gone. Irretrievable. Chief, Section 31 is breaching the transporter inhibitors, the weapon warned. 30 seconds until they can beam you out. Data, Chief said aloud, his voice strained from the neural load, can you detect their transporter beam coordinates? Yes, Data confirmed, his hands moving across his console with inhuman speed. They are preparing to lock onto your position. Then let's give them something to lock onto. Chief's consciousness dove deeper into the Enterprise's systems, finding the holo-emitters scattered throughout the ship. Through the neural link, he could control them all simultaneously. 20 holographic Master Chiefs materialized throughout the Enterprise, each one perfect copies down to the smallest detail, each one moving independently, each one broadcasting the same biosignature. Bloody hell, Chief O'Brien's voice came over the comm from the transporter room. Captain, I'm reading 23 Master Chiefs throughout the ship. I can't get a lock on the real one. Neither can Section 31, the weapon said with satisfaction. Their targeting systems are going crazy trying to figure out which one is real. Chief, this is brilliant. It's a delaying tactic, Chief corrected. They'll adapt. They always do. The ship rocked again, harder this time. Shields at 43%, Worf reported, tension evident in his voice. Captain, we cannot sustain this bombardment much longer. Picard's voice was steel. All hands, prepare for Section 31 boarding parties. Security teams to key locations. If they want Chief, they'll have to go through us. Through the neural link, Chief felt the ship's crew mobilizing. Security officers taking positions throughout the corridors. Engineering teams erecting force fields. Medical staff preparing for casualties. All of them preparing to defend someone they'd known for less than a week, someone from another universe who'd brought nothing but trouble to their lives. They were protecting him anyway. Because that's what the Federation did. "Chief," the weapon said quietly, "the rift is destabilizing." The UNSC's extraction attempts combined with Section 31's weapons fire are creating cascade reactions in the dimensional barriers. If this continues, the rift will collapse, with or without our intervention. Chief pulled his attention from the computer core, looking at data. How long? Approximately 6 minutes until total rift collapse, Data calculated. Chief, if you intend to return to your universe, this is your last opportunity. The choice crystallized with brutal clarity. He could disconnect from the computer, fight his way to a shuttle, and attempt to transit the rift before it collapsed. The UNSC was waiting on the other side. His people. His purpose. Everything he'd ever known. Or he could stay. Finish corrupting the Spartan data, ensure Section 31 could never recreate the program, and trap himself permanently in a universe that had shown him there were alternatives to total war. Through his neural link, Chief felt the dimensional rift pulsing. He could sense the UNSC on the other side, their desperation to recover him, their refusal to abandon a Spartan, their determination that mirrored his own. And he realized something that had never occurred to him in 30 years of service. Maybe the greatest way to honor his fellow Spartans wasn't to keep fighting their war. Maybe it was to ensure no one ever created more children like them. Data, Chief said, his voice carrying finality, help me send a message through the rift. Before we seal it permanently. Data's expression showed something that might have been sadness. You are choosing to stay. I'm choosing to finish the mission, Chief corrected. The mission was always protecting humanity, my humanity and yours. Section 31 represents the same kind of thinking that created Spartans in the first place. If I leave, if I let them have this technology, I'm just ensuring another generation of child soldiers. Different universe, same nightmare. Chief, you cannot save everyone, Data said gently. You are one person. You have already given more than anyone should be asked to give. Then one more sacrifice won't make much difference. Chief's consciousness reached through the neural link, finding the communication systems. Help me compose this message. The UNSC needs to know why I'm not coming home. Together, human consciousness, AI fragments, and positronic brain, they crafted a message. Priority transmission, UNSC command. Encryption, Alpha Zulu Sierra. From Master Chief Petty Officer John, 117. To Admiral Lasky, Commander Palmer, Dr. Halsey, and all UNSC personnel. I am alive and safe in a parallel dimension. Dimensional transit is possible but inadvisable. This universe contains threats equivalent to the Covenant and Flood. Opening permanent access could endanger both our peoples. I am requesting immediate cessation of all rift stabilization attempts. Allow the dimensional barriers to collapse naturally. This is not a request for extraction. This is a strategic withdrawal to protect both universes from contamination. All Spartan 2 program data has been corrupted beyond recovery. No one in either universe can replicate Dr. Halsey's work. This is deliberate and irreversible. The program dies with us. To my fellow Spartans still in service, you've earned your rest. The war is over. Learn to be people again. That's an order. Sierra, 117, mission complete. Going dark permanently. Chief out. Chief transmitted the message through the rift, felt it slip between dimensions, and knew that somewhere in his home universe, Dr. Halsey would read it and understand what he'd done. She'd be angry. She always believed the Spartan program was justified, that the cost was acceptable. But she'd also understand that her greatest creation had finally made a choice for himself. The ship shuddered violently. Shields at 19%. Worf shouted. Section 31 is preparing to board. Then let's not be here when they arrive, the weapon said. Through Chief's neural link, she activated every holographic Master Chief simultaneously. 23 armored warriors sprinted through the Enterprise's corridors in different directions, each one broadcasting identical biosignatures, each one leading Section 31 transporters on a wild chase through the ship. "Data, help me seal the rift," Chief said. "Permanently." Data's fingers flew across his console. "Rerouting all power to the deflector array. Chief, I will need you to coordinate the pulse through your neural link. Your armor's energy signature can serve as a dimensional anchor point to collapse the barriers safely." Chief felt the ship's deflector array through the neural connection, a massive parabolic dish capable of generating force fields powerful enough to deflect stellar radiation. Data was preparing to turn it into a dimensional weapon. "Whenever you're ready," Chief said. The dimensional rift pulsed one final time, and Chief felt something from the other side, a presence, a consciousness that might have been Dr. Halsey reaching through the barriers, trying to stop him. Or maybe it was just his imagination, his guilt at abandoning the woman who'd created him. Either way, it was too late. "Firing," Data announced. The deflector array discharged every erg of power the Enterprise could generate. The beam struck the dimensional rift with precise force, and Chief felt the barriers collapse through his neural link. The rift imploded with a flash of purple-blue energy that lit up the sector, then vanished completely. The way home was gone. Forever. Chief disconnected from the neural link, staggering slightly as his consciousness returned fully to his body. The weapon's holographic form steadied him, her digital hand passing through his arm but the gesture still somehow comforting. "You okay?" she asked quietly. "I will be," Chief lied. On the bridge, sensors confirmed what everyone already knew. "The dimensional rift has collapsed," Data reported. "Dimensional barriers have restabilized. Transit is no longer possible." Picard stood from his command chair. "And Section 31? Their vessels are withdrawing," Worf said, confusion evident. "They're standing down. Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from Agent Harris." On screen. Harris's face appeared, but the cold certainty was gone, replaced by barely controlled fury. "Well played, Picard. Our scans show the rift is permanently sealed and Chief Spartan data has been corrupted beyond recovery. There's nothing left for us to acquire." "Then perhaps Section 31 has learned a valuable lesson," Picard said coldly. "Some knowledge is not meant to be obtained. Some lines should not be crossed. Good day, Agent Harris." The screen went dark. The Section 31 vessels cloaked and vanished, their mission failed. The bridge crew slowly relaxed, weapons powering down, shields dropping to standby levels. They'd survived. The crisis was over. Chief made his way to the bridge, the weapon's presence still comforting in his neural interface. Picard turned to face him, his expression complex, respect, sympathy, and something approaching paternal concern. "Chief," Picard said quietly, "you've made an extraordinary sacrifice. Cutting yourself off from your home, your people, your entire universe. Are you certain this is what you wanted?" Chief looked around the bridge, at Riker's concerned expression, at Troy's empathetic understanding, at Worf's warrior's respect, at Data's synthetic fascination. These people had fought beside him, protected him, and shown him that there were alternatives to the endless war that had consumed his life. "I spent 30 years fighting to save humanity," Chief said. "Maybe it's time I learned what I was saving them for. This universe still has threats. The Borg will return, the Dominion is out there somewhere, the Romulans won't stay peaceful forever. But you face them differently. You try diplomacy first. You value life, even enemy life. You believe in principles even when they're inconvenient. And you think you can learn to operate that way?" Picard asked. Chief was silent for a long moment. Then, "I don't know. But I'd like to try. If you'll have me." Picard extended his hand. "Welcome to the Federation, Chief. I suspect you'll find it very different from the UNSC. But perhaps that's exactly what you need. Chief shook the captain's hand, sealing a choice that would define the rest of his life. He was no longer Master Chief Petty Officer John 117 of the UNSC Naval Special Warfare Command. He was just Chief, a warrior without a war, learning to exist in a universe that believed in something more than survival. It wouldn't be easy. 30 years of combat conditioning didn't disappear overnight. He'd always be a soldier at heart, always see threats where others saw opportunities, always calculate firing solutions even in peaceful situations. But maybe, with time and help, he could learn to be something else too. Maybe he could learn to be John. The weapon's voice came through his neural interface, warm and encouraging. I'm proud of you. That took real courage. Or stupidity, Chief thought back. There's a fine line, the weapon admitted. But for what it's worth, I think you made the right choice. And hey, this universe has some really interesting problems to solve. Borg, Dominion, Romulans, we're going to be busy. We? Chief questioned. Of course, we. You don't think I'm letting you have all the fun, do you? We're partners. That's what we do, we face impossible odds together and somehow survive. Different universe, same team. Chief allowed himself something rare, a smile. Hidden behind his helmet, but genuine nonetheless. On the view screen, the research station hung in space where the dimensional rift had been. 6 factions, Federation, Klingon, Romulan, Cardassian, Ferengi, and various independent observers, maintained their uneasy coalition, united by mutual self-interest and the memory of facing the Borg together. It wasn't peace. It was détente. But it was a start. And for a warrior who'd spent his entire life fighting, learning to build something instead of just defending it was perhaps the greatest mission of all. The Master Chief had saved 2 universes. Now he had to learn to live in one of them. 6 weeks after the rift collapsed, the USS Enterprise was en route to Deep Space Nine, a Federation space station positioned at the mouth of the Bajoran wormhole, gateway to the Gamma Quadrant. Captain Picard had been summoned to a conference with Starfleet Command, and Master Chief had been invited along as the Federation's newest strategic consultant. The title still felt strange. Consultant. Not soldier, not weapon, not asset. Consultant. Chief stood in his assigned quarters. Permanent now, modified with power couplings for his armor and a workstation configured for UNSC-style interfaces. The room felt lived in for the first time since he'd arrived. Personal effects were minimal. His decommissioned assault rifle mounted on the wall as a reminder of where he'd come from, a Klingon bat'leth gifted by Worf after the Borg engagement, and a small holographic projector that the weapon used to manifest her presence when she wanted to stretch beyond the confines of the computer core. Currently, that presence was sitting cross-legged on his desk, holographic form flickering slightly as she processed data streams from across the ship. You know what's weird? The weapon said conversationally. In our universe, I was designed to stop Cortana if she went rampant. Here, I'm helping Commander Data understand the philosophical implications of artificial consciousness. It's like I went from weapons system to philosophy professor in one-dimensional jump. You're enjoying it, Chief observed. Immensely, the weapon admitted. Data is fascinating. He spent years trying to understand humanity, but he approaches it like a science project. I tried to explain that being human isn't about logic, it's about making irrational decisions and somehow surviving them anyway. He found that philosophically troubling but empirically accurate. Chief almost smiled. He's not wrong. The door chime sounded. Come in, Chief said. Counselor Troy entered, carrying 2 cups of tea. She'd made a habit of these informal visits over the past 6 weeks, ostensibly to monitor Chief's psychological adjustment but increasingly just to talk. Chief had initially resisted. Spartans didn't need therapy, didn't need someone poking around in their emotional landscape. But Troy was patient, persistent, and had an uncanny ability to sense exactly when to push and when to give him space. I brought tea, Troy announced, setting one cup on Chief's desk. Herbal blend from Betaste. It's supposed to be calming. I'm calm, Chief said. You're tense, Troy corrected gently. You've been tense since we left the research station. Deep Space Nine is making you anxious. Chief didn't bother denying it. Troy would sense the lie anyway. Deep Space Nine is a combat zone. The Dominion War happened there. The Borg attacked it. Every major threat to the Federation has passed through that station at some point. Going there is tactically unsound. Or it's exactly where someone with your experience is most valuable, Troy countered. She settled into a chair, her posture relaxed but her eyes perceptive. Chief, you've spent 6 weeks learning to exist in a non-combat environment. You've attended diplomatic briefings, studied Federation law, even participated in a cultural exchange program with the Klingon. You've done everything we asked. But you've also been waiting for the next crisis. There's always a next crisis, Chief said flatly. Not always, Troy replied. Sometimes there are just days. Normal days where nothing explodes and no one dies. You've had 6 weeks of those days, and you don't trust them. You're waiting for the other shoe to drop. The weapon's holographic form shifted, her expression sympathetic. She's right, you know. You've been running combat simulations in the holodeck every day. 3 hours minimum. Yesterday you ran 7 hours straight until Commander LaForge had to manually shut down the system because you were overtaxing the power grid. Maintaining combat readiness Chief began. Is important, Troy finished. But so is learning to live when you're not fighting. Chief, you asked to stay in this universe. That means learning to exist in it, not just preparing for the next war. Chief turned to the viewport, watching the stars streak past at warp speed. How did he explain that combat readiness wasn't just training, it was survival? That every moment spent not preparing was a moment the enemy could use to gain advantage. That 30 years of war had taught him that peace was always temporary, always a prelude to the next battle. In my universe, Chief said slowly, peace meant someone was reloading. The Covenant had us on the defensive for 30 years. Every ceasefire was just them repositioning for the next offensive. We learned not to trust quiet moments because quiet moments got you killed. But the Covenant isn't here, Troy said gently. And the Federation, for all its conflicts, has managed to maintain relative peace for over 2 centuries. That's not because we're constantly preparing for war, it's because we've learned to build alliances, negotiate treaties, and find diplomatic solutions to conflicts. Until diplomacy fails, Chief said. And then people like me are needed. Yes, Troy agreed. Sometimes diplomacy fails. But Chief, you can't live your entire life as if every moment is the one where everything goes wrong. That's not living, that's just surviving. And you've done enough surviving. Maybe it's time to learn what comes after. The weapon hopped off the desk, her holographic form walking to stand beside Chief. You know what I think? I think you're scared. Not of combat, you've never been scared of combat. You're scared of what happens when there's no mission. When there's no objective to complete, no enemy to defeat. You're scared of being just. John. Chief's jaw tightened. The weapon had gotten uncomfortably good at reading him. John doesn't exist anymore. He died on Reach when the Covenant glassed the planet. Or maybe he's been buried under Sierra 117 for so long that you've forgotten what he looked like, Troy suggested. Chief, you told me once that Cortana treated you like a person, not a weapon. The weapon does the same. So do I. So does everyone on this ship. We see John, even if you don't. And what if John isn't worth seeing? Chief asked quietly. What if removing the mission, the purpose, the constant crisis reveals that there's nothing underneath? Just an empty shell that was built to fight and doesn't know how to do anything else. Then we'll figure it out together, Troy said simply. Chief, Healing isn't a mission you complete. It's a process. And yes, it's messy and uncomfortable and sometimes it feels impossible. But you've faced impossible odds before. This is just a different kind of battle. The ship's comm activated. "Chief, please report to the bridge," Picard's voice announced. "We're approaching Deep Space Nine, and I'd like your tactical assessment of the station's defensive capabilities." Chief moved toward the door, then paused. "Counselor, I appreciate what you're trying to do. But I am what I was made to be. Trying to be something else is just wishful thinking." "Maybe," Troy said. "Or maybe you're more than what you were made to be. Maybe the Master Chief is just one part of who you are. Give yourself time to discover the rest." As Chief left, the weapon remained behind briefly, turning to Troy. "He's terrified, isn't he?" "Absolutely," Troy confirmed. "But that's actually progress. Fear means he's allowing himself to feel something other than tactical assessment. It's a start." On the bridge, Chief found the senior staff assembled, all eyes on the view screen. Deep Space Nine hung in space like a geometric flower, a Cardassian-designed station with 3 massive docking pylons extending from a central hub. Beyond it, the Bajoran wormhole shimmered in space, a doorway to the Gamma Quadrant. "Impressive," Chief said, studying the station's configuration. "Cardassian military architecture. Heavy armor, overlapping defensive fields, multiple weapon emplacements. It's designed to survive sustained assault." "It survived several," Picard confirmed. "The Dominion War nearly destroyed it multiple times. But it held, thanks to the efforts of Captain Benjamin Sisko and his crew. We'll be meeting with Captain Sisko shortly. I thought you might appreciate speaking with someone who's faced existential threats comparable to what you've experienced." Chief nodded. Captain Sisko's file had made for interesting reading. A Starfleet officer who'd lost his wife to the Borg at Wolf 359, rebuilt his life as commander of Deep Space Nine, discovered he was a religious figure to the Bajoran people, and led the Federation alliance to victory in the Dominion War. A man who understood loss, duty, and the weight of impossible responsibility. "Captain, we're being hailed by Deep Space Nine," the communications officer announced. "Captain Sisko is requesting permission to come aboard." "Granted," Picard said. "Inform Captain Sisko we'll meet him in Transporter Room 3. As they made their way through the ship, Worf fell into step beside Chief. The Klingon security chief had become something of a mentor over the past 6 weeks, teaching Chief the finer points of Federation law enforcement while sharing warrior philosophies that bridged the gap between Klingon honor and Spartan duty. "Chief," Worf said quietly, "Captain Sisko is a warrior who learned to be more than his rage. After the Borg killed his wife, he spent years consumed by vengeance. But he learned to channel that anger into purpose. You would do well to speak with him honestly." "I'm not sure I know how to be honest about this," Chief admitted. "Every time I try to explain what the Spartan program did to us, people look at me like I'm a victim. I wasn't a victim. I was a soldier." "You were both," Worf said. "Being a victim does not diminish your strength as a warrior. It simply means you survived something that should have destroyed you. That is the highest form of courage." The transporter room materialized Captain Benjamin Sisko. A tall, dark-skinned man with a shaved head and the bearing of someone who'd commanded in combat. His eyes were sharp, assessing, and carried the weight of someone who'd made impossible choices and lived with the consequences. "Captain Picard," Sisko greeted, shaking hands. "It's good to see you again." His eyes moved to Chief, and something shifted in his expression, recognition of a kindred spirit. "And you must be the Master Chief. Commander Worf sent me your file. Hell of a service record." "Captain Sisko," Chief acknowledged. "Thank you for agreeing to meet." "Are you kidding?" Sisko's smile was genuine. "The man who corrupted a Borg database, defied Section 31, and sealed a dimensional rift to prevent interdimensional warfare. I had to meet you. Come on, let's talk in private. Captain Picard, if you'll excuse us. Picard nodded, understanding that some conversations were best held between warriors who'd faced the abyss and survived. Sisko led Chief to a conference room, dismissed the security escort with a gesture, and poured 2 glasses of something amber from a personal flask. Saurian brandy. Don't tell Starfleet Medical I have this. Chief accepted the glass but didn't drink. Captain, I'm not sure what Commander Worf told you, but... He told me you're a soldier trying to figure out how to be a person, Sisko interrupted. And that you're struggling with the fact that the war is over but you don't know how to stop fighting. Sound about right? Chief was silent for a moment. Yes, sir. Call me Ben. We're off the record here. Sisko took a drink, savoring it. Let me tell you something about war, Chief. It changes you. Not just your tactics or your strategies, it changes who you are at the fundamental level. When I lost my wife at Wolf 359, when the Borg turned me into a widower and my son into a boy without a mother, I was consumed by rage. I wanted revenge. I wanted to hurt the Borg the way they'd hurt me. Did you get your revenge? Chief asked. Eventually. But it didn't feel like I thought it would. Sisko leaned back in his chair. I learned something during the Dominion War. I learned that winning and surviving aren't the same thing. You can win every battle and still lose yourself in the process. The question isn't whether you can fight, you've proven that 1,000 times over. The question is whether you can remember why you fought in the first place. I fought to protect humanity, Chief said. No, Sisko corrected. You fought to protect people. Specific people. Faces, names, lives that mattered. Humanity is an abstract concept. People are real. And if you can't connect with real people, if you can't let them in, then you're just a weapon waiting for someone to aim you at the next target. Chief looked down at his hands, armored gauntlets that had killed thousands, saved millions, and never once been allowed to simply be human hands. I don't know if I remember how to connect with people. The Spartan program stripped that away. Emotions were weaknesses. Attachments were liabilities. We were taught to suppress everything except the mission. Bullshit, Sisko said bluntly. You had an AI companion who you clearly cared about. You formed bonds with your fellow Spartans. You made sacrifices to protect others. That's not emotionless. That's someone who cares so much that they've armored their heart because losing people hurts too damn much. The words hit harder than any Covenant plasma bolt. Chief felt something crack in the walls he'd maintained for decades, not breaking, but fracturing enough to let light through. I've lost everyone, Chief said quietly. Every Spartan I trained with. Dead. Cortana. Gone. My entire universe, unreachable. Everyone I ever cared about is either dead or separated by dimensional barriers I can't cross. How do I connect with people when everyone I connect with dies? By accepting that loss is part of living, Sisko said. By understanding that caring about people, even knowing you might lose them, is what makes life worth living. Chief, you've spent 30 years protecting humanity. But have you ever let humanity protect you? I don't need protection. Everyone needs protection, Sisko countered. Not physical protection, emotional protection. Someone to talk to when the nightmares come. Someone who understands what you've been through. Someone who sees you as more than just your service record. I have the weapon, Chief said. And she's important. But she's an AI, your AI. What about flesh and blood people? When was the last time you had a conversation that wasn't about tactics or missions? When was the last time you laughed at something that wasn't gallows humor in a combat zone? Chief couldn't remember. Literally could not recall a moment of genuine, unguarded joy that wasn't immediately followed by violence. That's what I thought, Sisko said. Chief, I'm going to give you some unsolicited advice. Stay on Deep Space Nine for a while. Not as a tactical consultant or a strategic asset, as a person. Meet people who aren't Starfleet officers. Eat at Quark's bar. Watch a baseball game. Learn to exist in moments that aren't crisis situations. And maybe, just maybe, you'll start to remember what you were protecting all those years. And if I can't? Chief asked. If I'm too far gone? Then you're no different than the rest of us, Sisko said with a sad smile. We're all just broken people trying to figure out how to be whole again. The difference is whether you give up or keep trying. And Chief, you didn't survive 30 years of war, defeat the Covenant, stop the flood, and seal a dimensional rift just to give up now. You're tougher than that. The conference room door opened. A young woman entered, late 20s, dark skin, sharp eyes, Starfleet uniform. Dad, sorry to interrupt, but Admiral Ross is on subspace. He wants an update on the Romulan negotiations. Thanks, Cassidy. Tell him I'll call him back in 10 minutes. Sisko turned to Chief. That's my wife. I found love again after Jennifer died. Didn't think it was possible, but life has a way of surprising you. Chief, you've got a long road ahead. But you don't have to walk it alone. Chief stood, extending his hand. Sisko shook it, warrior to warrior, survivor to survivor. Thank you, Captain, Chief said. I appreciate your honesty. Anytime. And Chief? When you're ready, come find me. I'll teach you how to play baseball. It's a perfect game for warriors, all about teamwork, strategy, and occasionally hitting things very hard with a stick. Chief almost smiled. I'll think about it. As Chief made his way back to the Enterprise, the weapon's voice came through his neural interface. That went well. Sisko's good people. He understands, Chief thought back. Most people try to fix me. He just acknowledged I'm broken and suggested that's okay. It is okay, the weapon said gently. Chief, you've been breaking yourself for 30 years to keep everyone else whole. Maybe it's time to let yourself be put back together. Even if you're not sure what shape you'll take afterward. And if I don't like what I become, then we'll figure it out together. That's what partners do. On Deep Space Nine's promenade, Chief walked among civilians for the first time since arriving in this universe. Bajoran shopkeepers, Ferengi merchants, human traders, alien species he didn't recognize. People living their lives without combat armor, without weapons, without the constant calculation of threat assessments. They were laughing. Arguing. Negotiating. Living. A Bajoran child ran past him, chasing a ball, and collided with his armored leg. The child looked up, startled, frightened, and Chief's first instinct was to assess threat level, identify potential hostiles, establish defensive perimeter. Then he stopped. Breathed. Reminded himself, not a threat. Just a child. Sorry, the child squeaked, then grabbed the ball and ran off, leaving Chief standing alone in the middle of the promenade. Such a simple moment. Such a normal interaction. And yet Chief felt something shift inside him, not healing exactly, but the beginning of healing. The first step on a long road toward becoming something more than Sierra 117. The weapon's voice was warm in his neural interface. See? The universe didn't explode. You interacted with a civilian child and nobody died. Progress. Small steps, Chief thought. Every journey starts with small steps, the weapon replied. Even the journey home. Chief looked around Deep Space Nine, at the people, the chaos, the messy complicated reality of a universe at peace. It wasn't perfect. Threats still existed. Conflicts still arose. But these people had learned to build something worth protecting. Maybe, with time, he could learn the same. Maybe the Master Chief's greatest mission wasn't defeating the Covenant or stopping the flood or saving the galaxy. Maybe it was learning to be John again. And for the first time in 30 years, Master Chief Petty Officer John 117 allowed himself to believe that might be possible. Epilogue. 3 months later, Deep Space Nine's security logs recorded an unusual incident, Master Chief participating in a baseball game organized by Captain Sisko. Chief's performance was described as technically proficient but lacking in appreciation for the sport's philosophical nuances. He hit 3 home runs, got tagged out twice trying to steal bases, and was ejected from the game for arguing with the umpire using military regulations as precedent. Commander Worf, observing from the stands, declared it the most Klingon thing a human has ever done. Counselor Troy, reviewing the incident in Chief's psychological profile, noted, "Subject is beginning to engage in recreational activities without immediate tactical purpose. This represents significant progress in emotional development." Also, his argument with the umpire demonstrated previously unseen capacity for passionate debate about non-combat related topics. Recommend continued exposure to competitive sports. The weapon, asked for her assessment, simply said, "He's learning. It's messy and awkward and he's terrible at it. But he's trying." That's all anyone can ask. And somewhere in the abandoned Spartan training facilities on Reach, in a universe separated by impassable dimensional barriers, a memorial stood for the 75 children who'd entered the program. 33 had survived augmentation. Most had died in service to humanity. One had learned to live. That, perhaps, was the greatest victory of all. Master Chief had invaded the Star Trek universe. Not with the Covenant's genocidal fury or the Flood's parasitic hunger, but with the quiet desperation of a soldier who'd forgotten how to be anything else. He'd brought war to a universe that believed in peace, violence to a civilization that valued diplomacy, and the hard pragmatism of survival to a culture that still believed in principles. But the Star Trek universe had invaded him right back. It had shown him that strength could exist without brutality, that protection didn't require dehumanization, that warriors could choose when to fight instead of simply obeying orders. The Federation wasn't perfect. Section 31 proved that darkness existed even in idealistic societies. But they tried. They built coalitions, negotiated treaties, and genuinely believed that most conflicts could be resolved without bloodshed. Chief had sealed the dimensional rift, corrupted the Spartan data, and trapped himself in a universe that operated on principles he'd been trained to dismiss as naive. But in doing so, he'd also freed himself from a war that had consumed his entire life. He'd chosen peace, not because the fight was won, but because some battles were worth walking away from. The Master Chief would always be a warrior. The Spartan 2 augmentations couldn't be reversed, the combat conditioning couldn't be erased, and 30 years of war had left scars that would never fully heal. But maybe, in this universe of impossible physics and idealistic principles, John 117 could learn to be something more than a weapon. Maybe he could learn to be John. And in a galaxy that had seen the Borg's emotionless efficiency, the Dominion's genetic supremacy, and the Romulans' calculating pragmatism, perhaps a warrior learning to value life over victory was exactly the kind of invasion the Star Trek universe needed. The Master Chief had finished his fight. Now he had to learn to live with the peace. Live long and prosper. Hit that subscribe button for more stories.